Calypso is a style of Caribbean music that originated in Trinidad and Tobago during the early to the mid-19th century and spread to the rest of the Caribbean Antilles by the mid-20th century. Its rhythms can be traced back to West African calypso and the arrival of French planters and their slaves from the French Antilles in the 18th century. It is characterized by highly rhythmic and harmonic vocals, and was historically most often sung in a French Creole and led by a griot. As calypso developed, the role of the griot became known as a chanteuli and eventually, calypsonian. As English replaced patois, Antillean Creole, as the dominant language, calypso migrated into English, and in so doing it attracted more attention from the government. It allowed the masses to challenge the doings of the unelected governor and legislative council, and the elected town councils of Port of Spain and San Fernando. Calypso continued to play an important role in political expression. Calypso in the Caribbean includes a range of genres, including bena in Antigua and Barbuda, mento, a style of Jamaican folk music that greatly influenced ska and reggae, ska, the precursor to rocksteady, and reggae, spoge, a style of Barbadian popular music, Dominica cadence liso, which mixed calypso with the cadence of Haiti, and soca music, a style of calypso/calypso, with influences from chutney, soul, funk, Latin and cadence liso. Etymology. It is thought that the name calypso was originally kaiso, which is now believed to come from efik ka isu, go on, and ibabio ka iso, continue, go on, used in urging someone on or in backing a contestant. There is also a Trinidadian term carizo that means old-time calypsos. The term calypso is recorded from the 1930s onwards. Alternatively, the insert for the Rough Guide to Calypso and Soca, published by World Music Network, favors John Cowley's arguments in Carnival, Canbolle, and Calypso, Traditions in the Making, that the word might be a corruption of the French caricias and through the process of patois and anglicization became caliso and then finally calypso. However, Cowley also notes that the first mention of the word calypso is given in a description of a dance in 1882 by Abbé Massé. Origins. Calypso music was developed in Trinidad in the 17th century from the West African calypso and canbolle music brought by enslaved Africans brought to the Caribbean islands to work on sugar plantations. The Africans brought to toil on sugar plantations, were stripped of all connections to their homeland and family and were not allowed to talk to each other. They used calypso to mock the slave masters and to communicate with each other. Many early calypsos were sung in French Creole by an individual called a griot. As calypso developed, the role of the griot became known as a chanteuli and eventually, calypsonian. Modern calypso, however, began in the 19th century as a fusion of disparate elements ranging from the masquerade song Lavoué, French Creole Bel-Air and the Kalinda stick-fighting chant well. Also early in its recording years were influences from Venezuelan paisios. Calypso's early rise was closely connected with the adoption of Carnival by Trinidadian slaves, including canbolle drumming and the music masquerade processions. The French brought Carnival to Trinidad, and calypso competitions at Carnival grew in popularity, especially after the abolition of slavery in 1834. Recordings. The first identifiably calypso genre song was recorded in 1912, by Lovey's String Band while visiting New York City. In 1914, the second calypso recordings including the first sung in English were done by Chantwell Julian White Rose, better known as the Iron Duke and famous Kalinda stick fighter. Jules Sims would also record vocal calypsos. The majority of these calypsos of the World War I era were instrumentals by Lovey and Lionel Belasco. Perhaps due to the constraints of the wartime economy, no recordings of note were produced until the late 1920s and early 1930s, when the golden era of calypso would cement the style, form, and phrasing of the music. Calypso evolved into a way of spreading news around Trinidad. Politicians, journalists, and public figures often debated the content of each song, and many Icelanders considered these songs the most reliable news source. Calypsonians pushed the boundaries of free speech as their lyrics spread news of any topic relevant to island life, including speaking out against political corruption. Even with this censorship, calypsos continued to push boundaries, with a variety of ways to slip songs past the scrutinizing eyes of the editor. Double entendre, or double speak, was one way, as was the practice of denouncing countries such as Germany and its annexation of Poland, while making pointed references toward the colonial government's policies in Trinidad. Sex, scandal, gossip, politics, local news, and insulting other calypsonians were the order of the day in classic calypso, just as it is today with classic hip-hop. And just as the hip-hop of today, the music sparked shock and outrage in moralistic sections of society. Countless recordings were dumped at sea in the name of censorship, although in truth, rival U.S. companies did this in the spirit of underhanded competition, claiming that the rivals' material was unfit for U.S. consumption. Decca Records lost untold pressings in this manner, as did its rival, RCA's Bluebird label. An entrepreneur named Eduardo da S.A. Gomez played a significant role in spreading calypso in its early days. S.A. Gomez, a Portuguese immigrant who owned a local music and phonograph equipment shop in Port of Spain, promoted the genre and gave financial support to the local artists. In March 1934, he sent Roaring Lion and Attila the Hun to New York City to record. They became the first calypsonians to record abroad, bringing the genre out of the West Indies and into pop culture. Lord Invader was quick to follow, and stayed in New York City after a protracted legal case involving the theft of his song Rum and Coca-Cola, a hit by the Andrews Sisters. He made his home there along with Wilmoth Houdini, and became one of the great calypsonians of the U.S. Early forms of calypso were also similar to jazz, which came after, such as Sens Humanitae. In this extemporaneous, melody calypsonians lyricize impromptu, commenting socially or insulting each other, Sens Humanite, or No Mercy, which is again a reference to French influence. Popularity. The first major stars of calypso started crossing over to new audiences worldwide in the late 1930s. Attila the Hun, Roaring Lion, and Lord Invader were first, followed by Lord Kitchener, one of the longest-lasting calypso stars in history. He continued to release hit records until his death in 2000. 1944's Rum and Coca-Cola by the Andrews Sisters, a cover version of a Lord Invader song, became an American hit despite the song being a very critical commentary on the explosion of prostitution, inflation, and other negative influences accompanying the American military bases in Trinidad at the time. Perhaps the most straightforward way to describe the focus of calypso is that it articulated itself as a form of protest against the authoritarian colonial culture which existed at the time. External audio. Audio icon. You may hear arrangements of calypso music by Leonard DePore on the album Calypso Christmas performed with the DePore Chorus in 1956 here on archive.org. In 1956 Mighty Sparrow won Trinida's music contest. Calypso, especially a toned-down, commercial variant, became a worldwide craze with pop song Banana Boat Song, or Deo, a traditional Jamaican folk song, was recorded by pop singer Harry Belafonte on his album Calypso, 1956. Calypso was the first calypso record to sell more than 1 million copies. 1956 also saw the massive international hit Jean and Dinah by Mighty Sparrow. This song too was a sly commentary as a plan of action for the calypsonian on the widespread prostitution and the prostitutes' desperation after the closing of the U.S. naval base on Trinidad at Chaguaramas. In addition, the choral director Leonard DePore recorded a calypso album in 1956 for Columbia Records featuring his choral arrangements of traditional Christmas music from Trinidad and Barbados, as well as the song Mary's Little Boy Child by Jester Hairston, Calypso Christmas, CL 923 Mono LP, 1956. In the Broadway Theatre musical Jamaica, 1957, Harold Arlen and Yip Harburg cleverly parodied commercial Belafonte-style calypso. Several films jumped on the calypso craze in 1957 such as Island in the Sun, 20th Century Fox, that featured Belafonte, and the low-budget films Calypso Joe, Allied Artists, Calypso Heat Wave, Columbia Pictures, and Bop Girl Goes Calypso, United Artists. Robert Mitchum released an album, Calypso, Is Like So, 1957, on Capitol Records, capturing the sound, spirit, and subtleties of the genre. Dizzy Gillespie recorded a calypso album Jambo Caribe, 1964, with James Moody and Kenny Barron. Soul shouter Gary U.S. Bonds released a calypso album Twist Up Calypso, 1962, on Le Grand Records, shortly after returning home from his military post in Port of Spain. Nithi Kanigaratnam from Sri Lanka sang calypso-styled songs in Tamil in 1968, which was a success and earned him the title Father of Tamil popular music. Since Baila rhythm was popular in Sri Lanka, most of his songs were classified as Tamil Baila. In the mid-1970s, women entered the calypso men's-oriented arena. Calypso Rose was the first woman to win the Trinidad Road March competition in 1977 with her song Gimme More Tempo. The following year with Come Let Me Jam, she won the Calypso King competition, the first time a woman had received the award. The competition's title was changed to Calypso Monarch in her honor. The French and pioneer electronic musician Jean-Michel Jarre released an album in 1990 called Waiting for Cousteau. The album has 4 tracks: Calypso, Calypso Part 2, Calypso Part 3 Fin de siècle, and Waiting for Cousteau. It was dedicated to Jacques-Yves Cousteau in his 80th birthday. This album had a special participation of the Amaco Renegades, a traditional steel drum band from Trinidad and Tobago. In the first track is possible to notice a strong style influence. Calypso had another short burst of commercial interest when Tim Burton's horror-slash-comedy film Beetlejuice, 1988, was released, and used Belafonte's Jump in the Line as the soundtrack's headliner and also the Banana Boat song in the dinner party scene. Disney's song Under the Sea, a calypso theme from The Little Mermaid, won an Academy Award for Best Original Song in 1989 as well as the Grammy Award for Best Song Written for Visual Media in 1991. In the late 1970s a new style, dubbed soca music, emerged from the blending of calypso with elements of East Indian music as well as African American soul, funk, and rock. The soca music of the 1980s featured fast tempos, electric guitars, and synthesizers, prominent melodic bass lines, and lyrics celebrating sensuality and dance. Many influential calypso singers including R.A.S. Shorty I, Mighty Sparrow, Lord Kitchener, Calypso Rose, Super Blue, and David Rudder embraced the new style. Brooklyn became an important site for the production of soca records from the late 1970s through the early 1990s. Although calypso's native land is Trinidad, it is also very popular in a small windward island in the West Indies. This island is called Dominica, the nature island of the Caribbean. Dominicans, similar to Trinidadians, also developed a keen interest in Caribbean genres such as soca music and calypso in the late 1960s. Called calypso in French Creole, calypso is illustrated as a unique form of music, especially during the Carnival season. Dominicans mainly use this genre to express their concerns and feedback on the everyday affairs and happenings of their country. Most of the music pieces composed normally have a negative stigma attached to them, expressing dissatisfaction with how their current government choose to conduct the affairs of the country. The first calypso monarch in Dominica, who was crowned in 1959, was called the Observer, and the longest reigning calypso monarch is King Dice. The calypso tent is not just limited to adult participation. There is also a section called Junior Monarch where young children under the age of 14 are able to prepare and compete with their personally made calypso pieces. Calypso competitions usually commence in January and culminate in the Calypso Monarch competition that are usually held the Saturday before Carnival in February. The winner becomes the Calypso King of that year and joins Miss Dominica, the Carnival pageant winner of that year, in the traditional costume parade on Carnival Monday. Socio-political influence. Calypso music has been used by Calypsonians to provide socio-political commentary. Prior to the independence of Trinidad and Tobago, Calypsonians would use their music to express the daily struggles of living in Trinidad, critique racial and economic inequalities, express opinions on social order, and voice overall concerns for those living on the island. During the colonial era, the black lower class used calypso music to protest their poor economic situation and the discrimination which they were subjected to. Calypso music frequently was used as a form of musical protest. During the independence movements of Trinidad and Tobago through the early 1950s up until 1962 when the nation gained independence, calypso lyrics frequently critiqued British colonial rule. Lyrics were made to express feelings towards colonial rule as being immoral and oppressive to Caribbean people. In particular, during the movement to independence, calypso music would include common messages of a desire for independence, opposition to colonial rule and empowerment for people of African descent. Neville Marcano, known as the Growling Tiger, became notorious for creating songs calling for independence of Trinidad and Tobago. In his song titled Abraham Lincoln's Speech at Gettysburg, Tiger used inspirations from Abraham Lincoln's famous Gettysburg Address to draw on values of liberty, equality, and democracy. These three principles paralleled some of many ideas circulating during the nationalist movement in Trinidad and Tobago. His lyrics struck with those in support of an independent Trinidadian nation hoping to instill similar principles in their own free nation. Lord Kitchener, a largely known calypsonian, became noted for his politically critical lyrics in his music. Kitchener used calypso to shed light on the grievances of the Windrush generation, a generation of Caribbean families migrating from the islands to England in response to increased labor demands after World War II. Kitchener's 1948 song Windrush was written in two versions. The first version gained more global popularity as the lyrics expressed gratitude and appreciation for British colonial rule. However, second version found greater popularity amongst Caribbean people themselves as the lyrics conveyed a story of West Indian immigrants facing discrimination and cultural alienation while living in Britain. Although Kitchener's alternate version of Windrush did not gain as much commercial popularity, the duality of the two versions exemplify how calypso music was used as an outlet for social commentary citation needed. After Trinidad and Tobago gained independence in 1962, calypso music continued to be used as an outlet for political commentary. With Eric Williams serving as the first Prime Minister of an independent Trinidad and Tobago, calypsonian Mighty Sparrow released his song, William the Conqueror, where he praises William's victory and prides the island in its newfound independence. Sparrow sings, "I am no politician, but I could understand if it wasn't for Brother Willie and his ability, Trinidad wouldn't go neither come. We used to vote for food and rum but nowadays we eating all the Indians and them. And in the ending, we voting PNM. Praise little Eric, rejoice and be glad. We have a better future here in Trinidad." Calypso music has also been used by politicians to promote political agendas through calypso competitions. The origins of calypso competitions dates back to the early 19th century post-emancipation where formerly enslaved communities would hold calypso wars showcasing their singing and dancing. Later in 1953 calypso competitions held the same showcasing nature, but became politicized as the People's National Movement, PNM, took over as the main organizer of competitions. The PNM used the competitions to combat social and class divisions by attracting participants of varying social status to participate and attend the competitions. The idea was to claim a national cultural identity and promote national unity. See also Cadence Sliso, Canbole, Calypso Monarch, Extempo, Sucos, Morabenta. List of calypso musicians. List of calypso-like genres. List of calypsos with socio-political influences. List of Caribbean music genres. Mento, a Jamaican folk music related to calypso. Thanks to internet retailers, buying Caribbean groceries online makes it easy to recreate the delicious cultural mix that makes island food so delicious. Some people may have heard of the DASH diet, dietary approaches to stop hypertension, which is full of beans, fish, vegetables, and fruit. Fish is well known for its ability to protect against heart disease by providing a natural source of omega-3 fatty acids. Many Caribbean recipes such as escovitch, fritters and soup feature fish, which is abundant in island nations. Beans are another food with important health benefits. Varieties such as gungo, kidney, and black eye have been shown to reduce blood pressure, lower cholesterol levels, and even lower blood sugar in diabetics. Caribbean recipes are also well known for the rich, spicy flavors that people love, But did you know that spicy food can actually improve your metabolism and suppress your appetite? Do a quick search for Caribbean food online and you will see that many dishes are spicy and feature fish, vegetables, and fruit that all offer numerous health benefits. When shopping for Caribbean groceries, you will see that there are many places that offer fruits and vegetables in various forms that are made for use in Caribbean recipes. West Indian groceries are full of health benefits. For example, a single guava fruit is lower in calories than an apple but is packed with vitamin C, potassium, and fiber. Another fruit that you will run across when shopping for Caribbean groceries online is the mango. Popular in a number of Caribbean recipes, mangoes provide vitamin A, iron, and calcium. The history of Caribbean recipes is as diverse as the culture of these islands. The original tribes that inhabited the islands, the Arawaks and Carib, ate diets rich in locally caught fish, native fruits, and vegetables. When European travelers and slaves from West Africa reached the islands, they brought with them wheat, onions, garlic, beef, okra, kalaloo, and mangoes, among other foods. When you read about Caribbean food online, you will see that it is made with strong influences from all of these cultures. The good thing for those hoping to try a Caribbean diet is that many West Indian groceries can now be purchased online. When you buy Caribbean groceries online, spices and sauces are the most important things to look for. You will want to look for curry powder, pimento, ginger, cinnamon, annatto, jerk sauce, and flavorsome marinades. You will also want to read about Caribbean cooking techniques, which are a mixture of cultural influences just like the food. Serene Murphy's endeavors include hosting dinner parties for family and friends, cooking tasty Caribbean-style summer BBQs, visiting vibrant markets, reading recipe books and traveling to sample the unique flavors of the continents. Serene's love of delicious Caribbean food has led her to provide a regalicious place where lovers of Caribbean food can purchase a wide range of easy-to-cook Caribbean recipe kits. This article is about the celebration of Carnival in many cultures. For the traveling entertainment, see Traveling Carnival. For the cruise line, see Carnival Cruise Line. For other uses, see Carnival, disambiguation. Carnival in Rome, c. 1650. Rio's Carnival is the largest in the world according to Guinness World Records. Carnival is a Western Christian festive season that occurs before the liturgical season of Lent. The main events typically occur during February or early March, during the period historically known as Shrovetide, or pre-Lent. Carnival typically involves public celebrations, including events such as parades, public street parties and other entertainments, combining some elements of a circus. Elaborate costumes and masks allow people to set aside their everyday individuality and experience a heightened sense of social unity. Participants often indulge in excessive consumption of alcohol, meat, and other foods that will be foregone during upcoming Lent. Traditionally, butter, milk, and other animal products were not consumed excessively, rather, their stock was fully consumed during Shrovetide as to reduce waste. This festival is known for being a time of great indulgence before Lent, which is a time stressing the opposite, with drinking, overeating, and various other activities of indulgence being performed. For example, pancakes, donuts, and other desserts are prepared and eaten for a final time. During Lent, lactoquinoa and animal products are eaten less, and individuals make a Lenten sacrifice, thus giving up a certain object or activity of desire. Other common features of Carnival include mock battles such as food fights, expressions of social satire, mockery of authorities, costumes of the grotesque body that display exaggerated features such as large noses, bellies, mouths, phalli, or elements of animal bodies, depictions of disease and gleeful death, and a general reversal of everyday rules and norms. The Italian tradition of wearing masks dates back to the Venice Carnival in the 15th century, and has been an inspiration in Greek theatre and commedia dell'arte for centuries. The term carnival is traditionally used in areas with a large Catholic presence, as well as in Greece. In historically evangelical Lutheran countries, the celebration is known as Fastlagn, and in areas with a high concentration of Anglicans, Church of England/U.S. Episcopal Church, Methodists, and other Protestants, pre-Lenten celebrations, along with penitential observances, occur on Shrove Tuesday or Mardi Gras. In Slavic Eastern Orthodox nations, Maslenitsa is celebrated during the last week before Great Lent. In German-speaking Europe and the Netherlands, the carnival season traditionally opens on November 11th, often at 11:11 a.m. This dates back to celebrations before the Advent season or with harvest celebrations of St. Martin's Day. Etymology: Feast of the Navigium Isides, celebrated in ancient Rome in honor of the goddess Isis. The word carnival is of Christian origin. The Latin-derived name of the holiday is sometimes also spelled carnival, typically in areas where Dutch, French, Spanish, and Portuguese are spoken, or carnevale in Italian-speaking contexts. Alternative names are used for regional and local celebrations. The word is said to come from the late Latin expression carne levare, which means remove meat. A folk etymology derives it from carne vale, farewell to meat. In either case, this signifies the approaching fast. The word carne may also be translated as flesh, producing a farewell to the flesh, a phrase embraced by certain carnival celebrants to embolden the festival's carefree spirit. The etymology of the word carnival thus points to a Christian origin of the celebratory period. Other scholars argue that the origin of the word is a common meat-based country feast, in Latin Carnulalia, or the festival of the Navigium Isides, ship of Isis, where the image of Isis was carried to the seashore to bless the start of sailing season. The festival consisted of a parade of masks following an adorned wooden boat, called in Latin Carus Navalis, possibly the source of both the name and the parade floats. History. Origins. Oinokoi depicting the parade of an armed owl during the celebration of the Anthesteria, Greece, 410, 390 BC. The characteristics of the celebration of Carnival take their origins from ancient European festivals, such as the Greek Dionysian, the Anthesteria, or the Roman Saturnalia. During these festivities, there was a temporary release from social obligations and hierarchies to make way for the overthrow of order, joking and even debauchery. From a historical and religious point of view, the carnival therefore represented a period of celebration, but above all of symbolic renewal, during which chaos replaced the established order, which, however, once the festive period was over, re-emerged new or renewed and guaranteed for a cycle valid until the beginning of the following carnival. From an anthropological point of view, carnival is a reversal ritual, in which social roles are reversed and norms about desired behavior are suspended. During antiquity, winter was thought of as the reign of the winter spirits. These needed to be driven out in order for summer to return. Carnival can thus be regarded as a rite of passage from darkness to light, from winter to summer, a fertility celebration, the first spring festival of the new year. Several Germanic tribes celebrated the returning of the daylight. Winter would be driven out, to make sure that fertility could return in spring. A central figure of this ritual was possibly the fertility goddess Nerthus. Also, there are some indications that the effigy of Nerthus or Freyr was placed on a ship with wheels and accompanied by a procession of people in animal disguise and men in women's clothes. Aboard the ship a marriage would be consummated as a fertility ritual. Tacitus wrote in his Germania, Germania 9.6, Ceterum nec cohibri parietibus deos nec in alam humani oris speciem ad simulare ex magnitudine coelestium arbitrator. The Germans, however, do not consider it consistent with the grandeur of celestial beings to confine the gods within walls, or to liken them to the form of any human countenance. Germania 40, mox vehiculum et vestis et, si creder aviles, numen ipsum secreto lacu abluiter, afterwards the car, the vestments, and, if you like to believe it, the divinity herself, are purified in a secret lake. Middle Ages. The fight between Carnival and Lent, Peter Bruegel the Elder, 1559. In the Middle Ages, Carnival referred to a period following Epiphany season that reached its climax before midnight on Shrove Tuesday. British historian John Bossy, in writing on the origin of the practices during Carnival, states that these were, despite some appearances, Christian in character, and they were medieval in origin, Although it has been widely supposed that they continued some kind of pre-Christian cult, there is in fact no evidence that they existed much before 1200. Because Lent was a period of fasting, Carnival therefore represented a last period of feasting and celebration before the spiritual rigors of Lent. Meat was plentiful during this part of the Christian calendar, and it was consumed during Carnival as people abstained from meat consumption during the following liturgical season, Lent. In the last few days of Carnival, known as Shrovetide, people confessed, shrived, their sins in preparation for Lent as well. In 1605, a Shrovetide play spoke of Christians who painted their faces to celebrate the season. What, are there masks? Hear you me, Jessica? Lock up my doors, and when you hear the drum, and the vile squealing of the wry-necked fife, clamber not you up the casements then, nor thrust your head into the public street, to gaze on Christian fools with varnished faces. Traditionally, a carnival feast was the last opportunity for common people to eat well, as there was typically a food shortage at the end of the winter as stores ran out. Until spring produce was available, people were limited to the minimum necessary meals during this period. On what nowadays is called Vassanavond, the days before fasting, all the remaining winter stores of lard, butter, and meat which were left would be eaten, for these would otherwise soon start to rot and decay. The selected livestock had already been slaughtered in November, and the meat would no longer be preservable. All the food that had survived the winter had to be eaten to assure that everyone was fed enough to survive until the coming spring would provide new food sources. Traditionally, the feast also was a time to indulge in sexual desires, which were supposed to be suppressed during the following period fasting. Before Lent began, all rich food and drink were consumed in what became a giant celebration that involved the whole community, and is thought to be the origin of Carnival. In many Christian sermons and texts, the example of a vessel is used to explain Christian doctrine, the nave of the Church of Baptism, the ship of Mary, etc. The writings show that processions with ship-like carts were held and lavish feasts were celebrated on the eve of Lent or the greeting of spring in the early Middle Ages. The Lenten period of the liturgical calendar, the 6 weeks directly before Easter, was historically marked by fasting, study, and other pious or penitential practices. During Lent, no parties or celebrations were held, and people refrained from eating rich foods, such as meat, dairy, fat, and sugar. The first 3 classes were often totally unavailable during this period because of late winter shortages. While Christian festivals such as Corpus Christi were church-sanctioned celebrations, Carnival was also a manifestation of European folk culture. In the Christian tradition, fasting is to commemorate the 40 days that Jesus fasted in the desert, according to the New Testament, and also to reflect on Christian values. It was a time for catechumens, those converting to Christianity, to prepare for baptism at Easter citation needed. Carnival in the Middle Ages took not just a few days, but almost the entire period between Christmas and the beginning of Lent. In those 2 months, Christian populations used their several holidays as an outlet for their daily frustrations. Many synods and councils attempted to set things right. Caesarius of Alls, 470-542, protested around 500 CE in his sermons against the pagan practices. Centuries later, his statements were adapted as the building blocks of the Indicus Superstitionum et Paganiarum, small index of superstitious and pagan practices, which was drafted by the Synod of Leptines in 742. It condemned the Spercalibus en Februario. Pope Gregory the Great, 590-604, decided that fasting would start on Ash Wednesday. The whole carnival event was set before the fasting, to set a clear division between celebrations and penitence. He also dispatched missionaries to sanctify any excesses in popular carnival customs. It was also the custom during Carnival that the ruling class would be playfully mocked using masks and disguises. In the year 743, the Synod in Leptines, located near Binche in Belgium, spoke out furiously against the excesses in the month of February. Also from the same period dates the phrase, "Whoever in February by a variety of less honorable acts tries to drive out winter is not a Christian, but a pagan." Confession books from around 800 contain more information about how people would dress as an animal or old woman during the festivities in January and February, even though this was a sin with no small penance. Also in Spain in the 7th century, San Isidoro de Sevilla complained in his writings about people coming out into the streets disguised, in many cases, as the opposite gender. Development. Carnival on Ice at the Kipterpoort in Antwerp, c. 1620. Carnival in Venice, by Giovanni Domenico Tiepolo, 1750. Typical masks worn at the Venice Carnival, which portray the satirical and exaggerated appearances often used. Gradually, ecclesiastical authority began to realize that the desired result could not be achieved by banning carnivals, which eventually led to a degree of Christianization of the traditions. They then became part of the liturgy and the liturgical year. In the Middle Ages, Carnival and Lent were both necessary, inevitable episodes in the eternal cycle of the church year. While forming an integral part of the Christian calendar, particularly in Catholic regions, many carnival traditions resemble those antedating Christianity. While medieval pageants and festivals such as Corpus Christi were church-sanctioned, Carnival was also a manifestation of medieval folk culture. Many local carnival customs are claimed to derive from local pre-Christian rituals, such as elaborate rites involving masked figures in the Swabian Alemannic Fastnacht. However, evidence is insufficient to establish a direct origin from Saturnalia or other ancient festivals. No complete accounts of Saturnalia survive, and the shared features of feasting, role reversals, temporary social equality, masks, and permitted rule-breaking do not necessarily constitute a coherent festival or link these festivals. Citation needed. These similarities may represent a reservoir of cultural resources that can embody multiple meanings and functions. For example, Easter begins with the resurrection of Jesus, followed by a liminal period, and ends with rebirth. Carnival reverses this as King Carnival comes to life, and a liminal period follows before his death. Both feasts are calculated by the lunar calendar. Both Jesus and King Carnival may be seen as expiatory figures who make a gift to the people with their deaths. In the case of Jesus, the gift is eternal life in heaven, and in the case of King Carnival, the acknowledgement that death is a necessary part of the cycle of life. Besides Christian anti-Judaism, the commonalities between church and carnival rituals and imagery suggest a common root. Early Christianity, Christ is figured as the victim of summary judgment, and is tortured and executed by Romans before a Jewish mob. His blood is on us and on our children. Matthew 27:24, 25. Holy Week processions in Spain include crowds who vociferously insult the figure of Jesus. Irreverence, parody, degradation, and laughter at a tragicomic effigy of God can be seen as intensifications of the sacred order. In 1466, the Catholic Church under Pope Paul II revived customs of the Saturnalia Carnival. Jews were forced to race naked through the streets of the city of Rome. Before they were to run, the Jews were ritually fed, so as to make the race more difficult for them and at the same time more amusing for spectators. They ran amid Rome's taunting shrieks and peals of laughter, while the Holy Father stood upon a richly ornamented balcony and laughed heartily, an eyewitness reports. 74. Some of the best-known traditions, including carnival parades and masquerade balls, were first recorded in medieval Italy. The Carnival of Venice was, for a long time, the most famous carnival, although Napoleon abolished it in 1797 and only in 1979 was the tradition restored. From Italy, carnival traditions spread to Spain, Portugal, and France, and from France to New France in North America. From Spain and Portugal, it spread with colonization to the Caribbean and Latin America. In the early 19th century in the German Rhineland and southern Netherlands, the weakened medieval tradition also revived. Continuously in the 18th and 19th centuries CE, as part of the annual Saturnalia abuse of the carnival in Rome, rabbis of the ghetto were forced to march through the city streets wearing foolish guise, jeered upon and pelted by a variety of missiles from the crowd. A petition of the Jewish community of Rome sent in 1836 to Pope Gregory XVI to stop the annual anti-Semitic Saturnalia abuse got a negation, It is not opportune to make any innovation. 33, 74, 75. In the Rhineland in 1823, the first modern carnival parade took place in Cologne. Carnival, Fasking or Fastnacht in Germany, mixed pagan traditions with Christian traditions. Pre-Lenten celebrations featured parades, costumes and masks to endure Lent's withdrawal from worldly pleasure. Citation needed. Riderless racers at Rome by Theodore Géricault. From the mid-15th century until 1882, Spring Carnival in Rome closed with a horse race. 15 to 20 riderless horses, originally imported from the Barbary coast of North Africa, ran the length of the Via del Corso, a long, straight city street, in about 212 minutes. Other areas developed their own traditions. In the United Kingdom, West Indian immigrants brought with them the traditions of Caribbean Carnival. However, the carnivals now celebrated at Notting Hill, Leeds, Yorkshire, and other places became divorced from their religious origin and became secular events that take place in the summer months. Citation needed. Mircea Eliade, historian of religions, gives us a clear explanation about Carnival and its meaning. He writes, "Any new year is a revival of time at its beginning, a repetition of the cosmogony. Ritual fights between two groups of extras, the presence of the dead, Saturnalia and orgies, are all elements which indicate that at the end of the year and in the expectation of the new year the mythical moments of the passage of chaos to the cosmogony are repeated." Eliade also writes, "Then the dead will come back, because all barriers between the dead and the living are broken, is the primordial chaos not revived, and will come back since, at this paradoxical moment, time will be interrupted, so that the dead may be again contemporaries of the living?" Eliade stresses that people have a deep need to regenerate themselves periodically by abolishing the elapsed time and making topical the cosmogony. As regards masks, monsters, animals, demons, they have an apotropaic meaning. Theories. Interpretations of Carnival present it as a social institution that degrades or uncrowns the higher functions of thought, speech, and the soul by translating them into the grotesque body, which serves to renew society and the world, as a release for impulses that threaten the social order that ultimately reinforces social norms, as a social transformation, or as a tool for different groups to focus attention on conflicts and incongruities by embodying them in senseless acts. Furthermore, some cultures use Carnival as a method of empowering themselves in spite of social conflicts. For example, when the Caribbean Carnival was established as a result of French settlers, even the slaves had their version of the masquerade, where they would reverse roles to mock those of higher social status. Along with empowering individuals for a period of time, despite their typical status, Carnival brings communities together. In a day where all are meant to perform a mask that differs from their typical identity, all members of a society are able to connect through their theatricality and satire. Geographic distribution. Africa. For the Canary Islands, see its section under Europe. Cape Verde Islands. Carnival was introduced by Portuguese settlers. It is celebrated on each of the archipelago's 9 inhabited islands. In Mindelo, São Vicente, groups challenge each other for a yearly prize. It has imported various Brazilian carnival traditions. The celebration in São Nicolau is more traditional, where established groups parade through the Ribeira Brava, gathering in the town square, although it has adopted drums, floats and costumes from Brazil. In São Nicolau, 3 groups, Copacabana, Estrela Azul, and Brilho da Zona, construct a painted float using fire, newspaper for the mold, and iron and steel for structure. Carnival São Nicolau is celebrated over 3 days, dawn Saturday, Sunday afternoon, and Tuesday. The celebrations are captured in the award-winning feature documentary Chindas, nominated at the 12th Africa Movie Academy Awards. Namibia. Carnival was introduced by German settlers. The celebration is based on the Renus Carnival tradition. Seychelles. The Seychelles Carnival began in 2011. It is held in the capital city of Victoria and takes place over 3 days. On day 1, the grand opening is held in the city centre near the clock tower. The second day is parade day. On day 3, the closing ceremony is held, and a lottery winner is announced. Zimbabwe. The Harare Carnival is held late in May. Events include fashion and music shows. The climax is a street party featuring costumes and music. Americas. Antigua. Main article, Antigua Carnival. The Antiguan Carnival is held from the end of July to the first Tuesday in August. The most important day is that of the Jouvert, or Juve, in which brass and steel drum bands perform. Barbuda's Carnival, held in June, is known as Caribana. The Antiguan and Barbudan carnivals replaced the old-time Christmas festival in 1957, with hopes of inspiring tourism. Argentina. Carnival in Argentina by school children. In Argentina, the most representative carnival performed is the so-called Murga, although other famous carnivals, more like Brazil's, are held in Argentine Mesopotamia and the northeast. Gualeguaychú in the east of Entre Rios province is the most important carnival city and has one of the largest parades. It adopts a musical background similar to Brazilian or Uruguayan carnival. Corrientes is another city with a carnival tradition. Chamamé is a popular musical style. In all major cities and many towns throughout the country, carnival is celebrated. Citation needed. As carnival coincides with summer in the southern hemisphere, in many parts of Argentina children play with water. The 19th century tradition of filling empty eggshells with water has evolved into water games that include the throwing of water balloons. Citation needed. Aruba. Carnival in Aruba means weeks of events that bring colorfully decorated floats, contagiously throbbing music, luxuriously costumed groups of celebrants of all ages, king and queen elections, electrifying jump UPS and torchlight parades, the Jouvert morning, the children's parades, and finally the Grand Parade. Aruba's biggest celebration is a month-long affair consisting of festive jump UPS, street parades, spectacular parades, and creative contests. Music and flamboyant costumes play a central role, from the Queen elections to the Grand Parade. Street parades continue in various districts throughout the month, with brass band, steel drum and road march tunes. On the evening before Lent, Carnival ends with the symbolic burning of King Momo. Bahamas. Junkanoo is the principal street parade in the Bahamas. It has been practiced in the Bahamas before and after the 1834 emancipation of slavery in the British Empire. The Bahamas announced the first Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival to commence in May 2015. Carnival in the Bahamas rivals various carnivals throughout the Caribbean in that it is a unique blend between the revered Junkanoo and traditional carnival. This fairly new festival has been referred to as the ultimate celebration of everything Bahamian. Barbados. Main article, Crop Over. Crop Over, formerly called Harvest Home, is a traditional harvest festival celebrated in Barbados. Its early beginnings were on the sugarcane plantations during the colonial period. Crop Over began in 1688, and featured singing, dancing, and accompaniment by shak, banjo, triangle, fiddle, guitar, bottles filled with water, and bones. Other traditions included climbing a greased pole, feasting, and drinking competitions. Originally signaling the end of the yearly cane harvest, it evolved into a national festival. In the late 20th century, Crop Over began to closely mirror the Trinidad Carnival. Beginning in June, Crop Over runs until the first Monday in August when it culminates in the finale, the Grand Cadelement. Citation needed. Crop Over time for many Icelanders is one big party. Craft markets, food tents/stalls, street parties, and cavalcades fill every week. Citation needed. A major feature is the Calypso competition. Calypso music, originating in Trinidad, uses syncopated rhythm and topical lyrics. It offers a medium in which to satirize local politics, amidst the general bacchanal. Calypso tents, also originating in Trinidad, feature cadres of musicians who perform biting social commentaries, political exposes, or rousing exhortations to "Whoop da waistline" and "Roll dat bumper." The groups compete for the Calypso Monarch Award, while the air is redolent with the smells of Bajan cooking during the Bridgetown Market Street Fair. The Coablopat festival blends dance, drama, and music with the crowning of the king and queen of costume bands. Every evening the Pic-O de Crop show is performed after the king of Calypso is finally crowned. The climax of the festival is Cadlimat Day, celebrated with a national holiday, when costume bands fill the streets with pulsating Barbadian rhythms and fireworks. Citation needed. Belize. Main article, Carnival in Belize. San Pedro is one of Belize's few cities to observe Carnival before Lent. Elsewhere, Carnival, sometimes referred to as Carnival, often occurs in September. The Fiesta de Carnival is often the most popular celebration, usually held over 3 days prior to Ash Wednesday, but the festivities often extend to the full week. This festival always includes music, dancing, costumes and parades. Comparsas are held throughout the week, consisting of large groups of dancers dancing and traveling on the streets, followed by a carroza, carriage, where the musicians play. The comparsa is a development of African processions where groups of devotees follow a given saint or deity during a particular religious celebration. One of the most popular comparsas of Fiesta de Carnival is the male group comparsa, usually composed of notable men from the community who dress up in outlandish costumes or cross-dress and dance to compete for money and prizes. Other popular activities include body painting and flower fighting. On the last day of Carnival, painters flood the street to paint each other. This simply means that a mixture of water paint and water or raw eggs is used to paint people on the streets, the goal being to paint as many people as you can. Street fights often occur during the festivities. Some locals treat this festival as an opportunity to exact revenge on their enemies. Vandalism is common and businesses constantly have to prepare in covering or repainting their advertisements during Carnival season because of the mischief performed. The tradition continues despite critics who advocate the termination of these festivities. Bolivia. Main article, Carnival de Oruro. The Diablada, dance primeval, the typical and main dance of Carnival de Oruro, a masterpiece of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity since 2001 in Bolivia. Image, Fraternidad Artística y Cultural La Diablada. La Diablada Carnival takes place in Oruro in central Bolivia. It is celebrated in honor of the miners' patron saint, Virgin de Socavón, the Virgin of the Tunnels. Citation needed. Over 50 parade groups dance, sing, and play music over a 5-kilometer-long course. Participants dress up as demons, devils, angels, Incas, and Spanish conquistadors. Dances include caporales and tincas. The parade runs from morning until late at night, 18 hours a day, for 3 days before Ash Wednesday. It was declared the 2001 Masterpieces of Oral Heritage and Intangible Heritage of Humanity by UNESCO. Throughout the country, celebrations are held involving traditional rhythms and water parties. In Santa Cruz de la Sierra, on the east side of the country, tropical weather allows a Brazilian-type carnival, with comparsas dancing traditional songs in matching uniforms. Citation needed. Brazil. Main article, Brazilian Carnival. Recife Carnival, in the capital city of the state of Pernambuco, Recife. Carnival circuit of the city of Salvador. The carnival in Brazil is a major part of Brazilian culture, carnival, in Portuguese. The first expression of this festivity took place in Rio de Janeiro in 1641, with the prestitos, very similar to musical processions that were held on public streets when John IV of Portugal was crowned king. Rio de Janeiro. Main article, Rio Carnival. The street carnival of Rio de Janeiro is designated by Guinness World Records as the largest carnival in the world, with approximately 2 million people each day. Samba schools are large, social entities with thousands of members and a theme for their song and parade each year. In Rio Carnival, Samba schools parade in the Sambadrome, Sambadromo in Portuguese. Some of the most famous include Gres Estaqueo Primeira de Mangueira, Gres Portela, Gres Académicos do Salgueiro, Gres Imperatriz Leopoldinense, Gres Beija-Flor de Nilópolis, Gres Mocidade Independente de Padre Miguel, and recently, Unidos de Tijuca and Gres União de Ilha do Governador. Local tourists pay $500, $9.50, depending on the costume, to buy a samba costume and dance in the parade. Blocos are small informal groups with a definite theme in their samba, usually satirizing the political situation. About 30 schools in Rio gather hundreds of thousands of participants. More than 440 blocos operate in Rio. Bundas are samba musical bands, also called street carnival bands, usually formed within a single neighborhood or musical background. The carnival industry chain amassed in 2012 almost $1 billion in revenues. Recife, Pernambuco. Recife is marked by the parade of the largest carnival block in the world, the Galo da Madrugada. This parade happens on the first Saturday of Carnival, Saturday of Zé Pereira, passes through the center of the city of Recife and has, as symbol, a giant rooster that is positioned in the Duarte Coelho Bridge. In this block, there is a great variety of musical rhythms, but the most present is frevo, characteristic rhythm of both Recife and Olinda that was declared intangible heritage of humanity by UNESCO. Citation needed. Salvador, Bahia. Main article, Bahian Carnival. Salvador has large carnival celebrations, including the axe, a typical Bahia music. A truck with giant speakers and a platform, where musicians play songs of local genres such as axe, samba reggae, and aroca, drives through town with a crowd following while dancing and singing. It was originally staged by two Salvador musicians, Dodo and Osmer, in the 1950s. After the Salvador Carnival, Porto Seguro continues the celebration. Citation needed. 3 circuits make up the festival. Campo Grande is the longest and most traditional. Barra Ondina is the most famous, on the seaside of Barra Beach and Ondina Beach and Pelourinho. International singers like David Guetta, will.i.am, Psy, and Bob Sinclair have performed in Salvador. Yvette Sangalo, Claudia Light, Daniela Mercury, Margaret Menezes, Chic Lead Combinana, and Banda Eva are some traditional attractions. The party officially takes 6 days, but can continue for more than that. Canada. Toronto Caribbean Carnival, held in Toronto on the first weekend of August to take advantage of more comfortable weather, has its origins in Caribbean carnival traditions. Tourist attendance at the parade typically exceeds 1 million. The Quebec Winter Carnival is one of the biggest winter-themed carnivals in the world. It depends on snowfall and very cold weather, to keep snowy ski trails in good condition and ice sculptures frozen. The carnival is held during the last days of January and first days of February. In the Ottawa-Gatineau region, Winterlude takes place during February. Caribbean Carnival in the City of Toronto, 2018. Caribbean Carnival in the City of Toronto, 2018. Winter Carnival, taken in Quebec City. Winter Carnival, taken in Quebec City. Caribbean Carnival in Rincon, Bonaire, 2018. Main article, Carnival in the Caribbean. Most Caribbean islands celebrate Carnival. The largest and most well-known is in Trinidad and Tobago. Antigua, Aruba, Barbados, Bonaire, Cayman Islands, Cuba, Curacao, Dominica, Dominican Republic, Grenada, Guadeloupe, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica, Martinique, Puerto Rico, Saba, St. Eustatius, Statia, St. Martin, St. Lucia, St. Kitts, St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines hold lengthy carnival seasons and large celebrations. Citation needed. Carnival is an important cultural event in the Dutch Caribbean. Festivities include jumped-up parades with beautifully colored costumes, floats, and live bands, as well as beauty contests and other competitions. Celebrations include a middle-of-the-night Juve parade that ends at sunrise with the burning of a straw king Momo, cleansing sins and bad luck. On Statia, he is called Prince Stupid. Citation needed. Carnival has been celebrated in Cuba since the 18th century. Participants don costumes from the island's cultural and ethnic variety. After Fidel Castro's communist revolution, Carnival's religious overtones were suppressed. Citation needed. The events remained, Albeit frowned upon by the state, citation needed carnival celebrations have been in decline throughout Cuba since then. Citation needed. Colombia. The Blacks and Whites Carnival in Pasto. Main article, Carnival in Colombia. Carnival was introduced by the Spaniards and incorporated elements from European cultures. It has managed to reinterpret traditions that belong to Colombia's African and Amerindian cultures. Documentary evidence shows that Carnival existed in Colombia in the 18th century and had already been a cause for concern for colonial authorities, who censored the celebrations, especially in the main political centers such as Cartagena, Bogotá, and Popayán. Citation needed. The carnival continued its evolution in small/unimportant towns out of view of the rulers. The result was the uninterrupted celebration of carnival festivals in Barranquilla. See Barranquilla's Carnival, now recognized as one of the masterpieces of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity. The Barranquilla Carnival includes several parades on Friday and Saturday nights beginning on January 11th and ending with a 6-day non-stop festival, beginning the Wednesday prior to Ash Wednesday and ending Tuesday midnight. Other celebrations occur in villages along the lower Magdalena River in northern Colombia, and in Pasto and Nariño, see Blacks and Whites Carnival, in the south of the country. In the early 20th century, attempts to introduce Carnival in Bogotá were rejected by the government. The Bogotá Carnival was renewed in the 21st century. Citation needed. Dominica. Main article, Chante Mas. Carnival in Dominica is held in the capital city of Roseau, and takes elements of Carnival that can be seen in the neighboring French islands of Martinique and Guadeloupe, as well as Trinidad. Notable events leading up to Carnival include the opening of Carnival celebrations, the Calypso Monarch music competition, the Queen of Carnival beauty pageant, and bouillon music bands. Celebrations last for the Monday and Tuesday before Ash Wednesday. Citation needed. Dominican Republic. Main article, Carnival in the Dominican Republic. Traditional Cochuelo Mask of the Dominican Carnival in La Vega, Dominican Republic. Dominican Carnival is celebrated in most cities and towns in the main streets during February. Among its main characteristics are its flashy costumes and loud music. The one held in La Vega, which is one of the biggest in the country, and the National Parade in Santo Domingo were where the first Carnival of the Americas was held. Citation needed. Carnival masks are elaborate and colorful. The costumes used on the parades are satires of the devil and are called Diablos Cochuelos. They dance and run to the rhythm of merengue music mixed with techno, hip-hop, and reggaeton. Additional allegorical characters represent Dominican traditions such as Robalagolina and Calife. Citation needed. One of the most international parades is in San Pedro de Macorís. It exhibits the glorious parade of costumed groups dancing in the streets. Revelers flee from the Diablos Cochuelos, who try to hit them with Villagas. Citation needed. The timing of the festivals has grown apart from its original religious synchronization with the period of Lent. With National Independence Day on February 27 and the birthday of Juan Pablo Duarte, its founding father, on January 26, the carnival celebrations fill February regardless of the Lenten calendar. Ecuador. Carnival Parade in Latacunga City. Party in Latacunga City. In Ecuador, the celebrations began before the arrival of Catholicism. The Warangas Indians, from the Chimbos Nation, used to celebrate the second moon of the year with a festival at which they threw flowers, and perfumed water. This indigenous tradition merged with the Catholic celebration of Carnival. Citation needed. A common feature of Ecuadorian Carnival is the Diablitos, little devils, who play with water. As with snowball fights, the practice of throwing or dumping water on unsuspecting victims is revered by children and teenagers, although feared by some adults. Throwing water balloons, sometimes even eggs and flour, both to friends and strangers is fun, but can also upset the uninformed. Citation needed. Although the government as well as school authorities forbid such games, they are widely practiced. Historians tell of a bishop in 1867 who threatened excommunication for the sin of playing carnival games. Citation needed. Festivals differ across the country. Locals wear disguises with colorful masks and dance. Usually, The celebrations begin with the election of Tata Carnival, Father Carnival, who heads the festivities and leads the parades in each city. Citation needed. The most famed carnival festivities are in Guaranda, Bolivar Province, and Ambato, Tungurahua Province. In Ambato, the festivities are called Fiesta de las Flores y las Frutas, Festival of the Flowers and Fruits. Other cities have revived carnival traditions with colorful parades, such as in Azogues, Canar Province. In Azogues and the southern Andes in general, Tata Carnival is always an indigenous Canary. Recently, a celebration has gained prominence in the northern part of the Andes in the Chota Valley in Imbabura, which is a zone of a strong Afro-Ecuadorian population, and so the carnival is celebrated with Bomba del Chota music. Latacunga celebrates carnival in three manners: carnival with water where people play with water, religious carnival where people make religious festivity, and carnival parade in the city in which people march on the Latacunga streets wearing masks while they dance with music band. Citation needed. French Guiana. Main article, Carnival in French Guiana. The Carnival of French Guiana has roots in Creole culture. Everyone participates, mainland French, Brazilians. Guyana has a frontier with Brazil, and Chinese as well as Creole. Citation needed. Its duration is variable, determined by movable religious festivals. Carnival begins at Epiphany and ends on Ash Wednesday, and so typically lasts through most of January and February. During this period, from Friday evening until Monday morning, the entire country throbs to the rhythm of masked balls and street parades. Citation needed. Friday afternoons are for eating galette de rois, the cake of kings, and drinking champagne. The cake may be flavored with frangipani, guava, or coconut. Citation needed. On Sunday afternoons, major parades fill the streets of Caen, Cura, and Saint Laurent du Maroni. Competing groups prepare for months. Dressed to follow the year's agreed theme, they march with carnival floats, drums, and brass bands. Citation needed. Brazilian groups are appreciated for their elaborate feathered and sequin costumes. However, they are not eligible for competition since the costumes do not change over time. Citation needed. Mythical characters appear regularly in the parade. Citation needed. Carolyn, a small person dressed in a magpie tail and top hat, riding on a shrew. L'Eng Marons, groups of men dressed in red loincloths, bearing ripe tomatoes in their mouths while their bodies are smeared with grease or molasses. They deliberately try to come in contact with spectators, soiling their clothes. Les Mokum, cross-dressing men. Out of the carnival context, Mokume is a pejorative term for a homosexual. Susurrus, the bat, a character dressed in a winged leotard from head to foot, usually black in color. Traditionally malevolent, this character is liable to chase spectators and sting them. 4 Toloalas. A uniquely Creole tradition are the Toloalas. These women wear decorative gowns, gloves, masks, and headdresses that cover them completely, making them unrecognizable, even to the color of their skin. On Friday and Saturday nights of Carnival, Toloala balls are held in so-called universities, large dance halls that open only at Carnival time. Toloalas get in free, and are even given condoms in the interest of the sexual health of the community. Men attend the balls, but they pay admittance and are not disguised. The Toloalas pick their dance partners, who may not refuse. The setup is designed to make it easy for a woman to create a temporary liaison with a man in total anonymity. Undisguised women are not welcomed. By tradition, if such a woman gets up to dance, the orchestra stops playing. Alcohol is served at bars. The disguised women whisper to the men Toloala thirsty, at which a round of drinks is expected, to be drunk through a straw. Protect their anonymity. Citation needed. In more modern times, Guyanese men have attempted to turn the tables by staging soirees tololo, in which it is the men who, in disguise, seek partners from undisguised women bystanders. Citation needed. The final 4 days of Carnival follow a rigid schedule, and no work is done. Citation needed. Sunday, the Grand Parade, in which the groups compete. Monday, Marriage Burlesque, with men dressed as brides and women as grooms. Tuesday, Red Devil Day, in which everyone wears red or black. Ash Wednesday, dress is black and white only. for the grand ceremony of burning the effigy of Vavel, King Carnival. Guatemala. The most famous carnival celebration in Guatemala is in Mazatenango. During February, Mazatenango is famous for its 8-day carnival feast. Days of food, music, parades, and games fill the streets of the Suchitepeques department. As one Guatemalan website states, to mention the Carnival of Mazatenango is to bring to mind moments of a happy and cordial party. In the 8 days of this celebration's duration, the local residents have kept alive the traditions of the department. Citation needed. Haiti. Main article, Haitian Carnival. Carnival in Haiti started in 1804 in the capital Port-au-Prince after the Declaration of Independence. The Port-au-Prince Carnival is one of the largest in North America. It is known as Carnival in the Creole language. It starts in January, known as Pre-Carnival, while the main carnival activities begin in February. In July 2012, Haiti had another carnival called Carnival de Fleurs. Beautiful costumes, floats, rare parades, masks, foods, and popular raisin music, such as Bookman Experience, Vidal, Tokay, Buchanan, and Heritage, and compa bands, such as T-Vice, Jackout No. 1, Sweet Mickey, Creole Law, DP Express, Mitsik, Ram, T-Mickey, Karami, Jackout Mitsik, and Scorpio Fever, play for dancers in the streets of the Plaza of Champ de Mars. An annual song competition takes place. Citation needed. Other places in Haiti celebrate Carnival, including Jacmel and Auxiliary Quays. In 2013, Carnival was celebrated in Cap Haitien. Citation needed. Carnival finishes on Ash Wednesday, followed by Rara, another parading musical tradition known mainly in Haiti and in the Dominican Republic. This festival emphasizes religion. Songs are composed each year, and bands play bamboo tubes, vaccin, and homemade horns, cornet. Rara is also performed in Prospect and Central Park in summertime New York. Honduras. In La Ceiba in Honduras, Carnival is held on the 3rd or 4th Saturday of every May to commemorate San Isidro. It is the largest carnival celebration in Central America. Mexico. Main article, Carnival in Mexico. In Mexico, Carnival is celebrated in about 225 cities and towns. The largest are in Mazatlan and the city of Veracruz, with others in Baja California and Yucatan. The larger city carnivals employ costumes, elected queens, and parades with floats, but carnival celebrations in smaller and rural areas vary widely depending on the level of European influence during Mexico's colonial period. The largest of these is in Huejotzingo, Puebla, where most townspeople take part in mock combat with rifles shooting blanks, roughly based on the Battle of Puebla. Other important states with local traditions include Morelos, Oaxaca, Tlaxcala, and Chiapas. Carnival of Campeche goes back 400 years, to 1582. Nicaragua. On the Caribbean coast of Bluefields, Nicaragua, Carnival is better known as Palo de Mayo, or Mayoya, and is celebrated every day of May. In Managua, it is celebrated for 2 days. There it is named Alegría por la Vida, Joy for Life, and features a different theme each year. Another festival in Managua celebrates patron Saint Domingo de Guzman and lasts 10 days. Panama. 2 queens, representing Calle Arriba and Calle Abajo, standing on a float. Aculco. Traditionally beginning on Friday and ending on the Tuesday before Ash Wednesday, Los Carnivals, as Panamanians refer to the days of Carnival, are celebrated across the country. Carnival Week is especially popular in the sleepy town of Las Tublas. The population multiplies because of the opulent carnival celebrations. Carnival celebrations in Panama City and almost all of the Azuero Peninsula are popular tourist attractions. Panonom features a parade on the Rio Zarate as a unique carnival event. The Panamanian Carnival is also popular because of the concerts featuring popular artists in the most visited areas. Concerts are often carried out during the night, and continue until the next morning. Carnival Week is a national holiday in Panama, with most businesses and government offices remaining closed during its duration, and with most Panamanians opting to go to the country's rural areas to participate on the carnivals and visit their relatives. Carnivals in Panama also feature large repurposed fuel trucks that are used for soaking attendees through the use of fire hoses that are controlled and directed by one or more people that stand in a platform that is mounted on top of the truck. This is known as culicos or los culicos. Trucks get their water from nearby, government-approved rivers, and the water is tested for cleanliness before use. Culicos are often performed from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., when the sun is at its brightest. Children and pregnant women are banned from participating in the culicos, and the trucks are always sponsored by a well-known Panamanian company or brand. The culicos are also often accompanied by reggaeton concerts. The open consumption of large amounts of cold, low-alcohol beer or Smirnoff, stored in ice-filled coolers, is common among attendees. Just like in Rio de Janeiro, some carnivals also feature floats, but they may have young women with elaborate costumes that stand as the queens of Calle Arriba and Calle Abajo, representing rich and working class people, respectively. The queens are chosen through a contest and announced on October of the previous year, and are replaced every year. The queens are introduced on the first carnival day, and are always accompanied by a music band, who are present whenever the queens are present. Fireworks are launched on the last carnival night, to signal the end of the carnival. Peru. Mornada dance, in the Carnival of Juliaca, Peru. Cajamarca. The town of Cajamarca is considered the capital of Carnival in Peru. Local residents of all ages dance around the uncha, or yunsa, a tree adorned with ribbons, balloons, toys, fruits, bottles of liquor, and other prizes citation needed. At a certain point, the mayordomo, governor of the feast, walks into the circle. The governor chooses a partner to go to the uncha, which they attempt to cut down by striking it 3 times with a machete. The machete is passed from couple to couple as each strikes the tree 3 times. When the uncha finally falls, the crowd rushes to grab the prize citation needed. The person who successfully brings down the uncha becomes the following year's governor. Crime. While generally peaceful, there have been issues with people using Carnival as a pretext for crime, particularly robbery or vandalism, especially in certain areas of Lima. Puerto Rico. Main article, Carnival de Ponce. Puerto Rico's most popular festivals are the Carnival de Loiza and Carnival de Ponce. The Carnival de Ponce, officially Carnival Ponceno, is celebrated annually in Ponce. The celebration lasts 1 week and ends on the day before Ash Wednesday. It is one of the oldest carnivals of the Western Hemisphere, dating to 1858. Some authorities trace the Ponce Carnival to the 18th century. Trinidad and Tobago. Masquerades chipping on Carnival Tuesday in Port of Spain during Trinidad and Tobago Carnival. Main article, Trinidad and Tobago Carnival. In Trinidad and Tobago, Carnival lasts months and culminates in large celebrations on the 3 days before Ash Wednesday with Dimanche Gras, Jaivert, and Mas, Masquerade. Tobago's celebration culminates on Monday and Tuesday on a much smaller scale. However, Tobago hosted its inaugural stand-alone carnival on October 28, 30, 2022. Carnival combines costumes, dance, music, competitions, rum, and partying, fading. Music styles include soca, calypso, rapso, and more recently chutney and chutney soca citation needed. The annual Carnival Steel Pan competition, known as the National Panorama Competition, holds the finals on the Saturday before the main event. Pan players compete in categories such as conventional steel band or single pan band by performing renditions of the year's calypsos. Dimanche Gras takes place on the Sunday night before Ash Wednesday. Here the Calypso monarch is chosen, after competition, and prize money and a vehicle awarded. The king and queen of the bands are crowned, where each band parades costumes for 2 days and submits a king and queen, from which an overall winner is chosen. These usually involve huge, complex, beautiful well-crafted costumes, that includes wire bending. Jaarhuvert, or Dirty Moss, takes place before dawn on the Monday, known as Carnival Monday, before Ash Wednesday. It means opening of the day. Revelers dress in costumes embodying puns on current affairs, especially political and social events. Clean mud, clay mud, oil paint and body paint are familiar during Jaarhuvert. A common character is Jab Jabs, devils, blue, black, or red, complete with pitchfork, pointed horns, and tails. A king and queen of Jaarhuvert are chosen, based on their witty political/social messages citation needed. The Carnival King costume for a particular band. Carnival Monday involves the parade of the Moss bands. Revelers wear only parts of their costumes, more for fun than display or competition. Monday Night Moss is popular in most towns and especially the capital, where smaller bands compete. There is also the bomb competition, a smaller scale judging of steel band citation needed. Carnival Tuesday hosts the main events. Full costume is worn, complete with makeup and body paint/adornment. Usually moss boots that complement the costumes are worn. Each band has their costume presentation based on a particular theme, and contains various sections, some consisting of thousands of revelers, that reflect these themes. The street parade and band costume competition take place. The Moss bands eventually converge on the Queen's Park Savannah to pass on the stage for judging. The singer of the most played song is crowned Road March King or Queen, earning prize money and usually a vehicle citation needed. This parading and revelry goes on until Tuesday midnight. Ash Wednesday itself, while not an official holiday, sends flocks to local beaches. The most popular are Maracas Beach and Manzanilla Beach, where huge beach parties take place on Ash Wednesday citation needed. United States. Main articles: Mardi Gras in the United States, Mardi Gras in Mobile, Alabama, Mardi Gras in New Orleans, and Coureur de Mardi Gras. Revelers on Frenchman Street, New Orleans, 2006. Carnival celebrations, usually referred to as Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday in French, were first celebrated in the Gulf Coast area, but now occur in many states. Customs originated in the one-time French colonial capitals of Mobile, now in Alabama, New Orleans, Louisiana, and Biloxi, Mississippi, all of which have celebrated for many years with street parades and masquerade balls. Other major American cities with celebrations include Washington, D.C., St. Louis, Missouri, San Francisco and San Diego, California, Galveston, Texas, and Pensacola, Tampa, and Orlando in Florida. The most widely known, elaborate, and popular U.S. events are in New Orleans, where crews organize parades, balls, and other activities starting with Funny 40 Fellows Streetcar Parade on 12th night and ending with the closing of Bourbon Street at midnight on Fat Tuesday. It is often called the greatest free party on earth. Many other Louisiana cities such as Lake Charles, Baton Rouge, Shreveport, Lafayette, Mamou, Houma, and Thibodaux, most of which were under French control at one time or another, also hold carnival celebrations. On the prairie country northwest of Lafayette, Louisiana, the Cajuns celebrate the traditional Coureur de Mardi Gras, which has its roots in celebrations from rural medieval France. In New York City, a Caribbean carnival known as the West Indian Day Parade is held in Crown Heights, Brooklyn on Labor Day. Founded by immigrants from Trinidad, the event was initially held at the beginning of Lent, but was later moved to Labor Day in order to allow an outdoor event in the summer. Starting in 2013, the Slovenian-American community located in the St. Clair Superior neighborhood of Cleveland began hosting a local version of Kurentovanje, the carnival event held in the city of Tuzla, Slovenia. The event is conducted on the Saturday prior to Ash Wednesday. Uruguay. Afro-Uruguayans gathering for a Candom celebration, ca. 1870. The carnival in Uruguay lasts more than 40 days, generally beginning towards the end of January and running through mid-March. Celebrations in Montevideo are the largest. The festival is performed in the European parade style with elements from Bantu and Angolan Bengala cultures imported with slaves in colonial times. The main attractions of Uruguayan Carnival include two colorful parades called Desfile de Carnival, Carnival Parade, and Desfile de Lomitas, Calls Parade, a Candom Summoning Parade. During the celebration, theaters called tablados are built in many places throughout the cities, especially in Montevideo. Traditionally formed by men and now starting to be open to women, the different carnival groups, murgas, lobolos, or parodistas, perform a kind of popular opera at the tablados, singing and dancing songs that generally relate to the social and political situation. The calls groups, basically formed by drummers playing the tamboril, perform candom rhythmic figures. The carnival in Uruguay have escolas de samba too, and the biggest samba parades are in Artigas and in Montevideo. Revelers wear their festival clothing. Each group has its own theme. Women wearing elegant, bright dresses are called vedettes and provide a sensual touch to parade citation needed. European archetypes, Pierrot, Harlequin, and Columbina, merge with African ancestral elements, the Old Mother or Mama Vieja, the Medicine Man or Gramillero and the Magician or Escobero, in the festival. Venezuela. Carnival in Venezuela covers 2 days, 40 days before Easter. It is a time when youth in many rural towns have water fights, including the use of water balloons and water guns. Any pedestrian risks getting soaked. Coastal towns and provinces celebrate Carnival more fervently than elsewhere in the country. Venezuelans regard Carnival about the same way they regard Christmas and Semana Santa, Holy Week, the week before Easter Sunday, when they take the opportunity to visit their families. Asia. India. Panaji locals participating at the Goan Carnival, late 20th century. Foreign tourist revelers at the modern Goan Carnival, 2005. In India, Carnival is celebrated only in the state of Goa and was originally a local Roman Catholic tradition known as intrus, which means swindler in Konkani, while intrudo is the appropriate word in Portuguese for carnival. The present commercial version of the Goan Carnival, King Momo, floats, etc., was created based on the Rio Carnival only in the 1960s as a means of attracting tourism. The largest celebration takes place in the capital Panaji. The commercial carnival festivities occurred during the 3 days and nights preceding Ash Wednesday. Sixtus Eric Dias from Candolim was the King Momo for the Carnival 2021. All-night parades occur throughout the state with bands, dances, and floats. Grand balls are held in the evenings. Indonesia. In Indonesia, the word carnival or carnaval is not related to pre-Lent festivities, but more to festivals in general, especially those with processions and extravagant costumes. One of the largest carnivals in Indonesia is the Solo Batik Carnival, held in Solo, Central Java. The Jember Fashion Carnival is held in Jember, East Java. The Roman Catholic community of Kupang, East Nusa Tenggara, held an Easter procession in form of an Easter carnival called Pawai Paskah Kupang. Israel. Main article, Adloyada. Europe. Long N.E. and Long's Bresses, Malmedy. Giant Joker of Mosaic in 2013. Venetian Mask 2016. Carnival in Donetsk, Ukraine, 2010. Albania. Carnivals have begun to be celebrated in Korçak before 1940, a period in which cultural life in the city has been varied. Although a pagan holiday, the carnival was later celebrated on feast day in February. In addition to the many carnival-wearing individuals, there were bands with guitars, bows, and butaphoric Czech spelling masks such as animal heads and humans. The Korçak Carnival took a big hit after the creation of cultural societies such as the Korçak Youth. During this period, carnivals were accompanied by mandolins, guitars, and humorous songs. Carnival celebrations were discontinued after 1960, to resume in other social conditions after 1990. Korçak is one of the first cities to revive the carnival tradition by establishing the Carnival Association in 1992 as part of the National Carnival Association of Albania. On April 10, 1994, the first international carnival festival in Albania was organized in Korça. The following year, the second international carnival festival is even larger. Since this year and until 2008, the Korça Carnival Group has been represented at a number of international festivals organized in various European countries. Belgium. Many parts of Belgium celebrate Carnival, typically with costume parades, partying, and fireworks. These areas include the province of Limburg with its cities Maasmechelen, Maaseick, and Lanaken along the River Meuse, the cities of Aalst, Ninove, Binche, Eupen, Halle, Heist, Kulmis, Malmedy, and Stavelot. The Carnival of Binche dates at least to the 14th century. Parades are held over the 3 days before Lent. The most important participants are the Jill, who wear traditional costumes on Shrove Tuesday and throw blood oranges to the crowd. In 2003, the Carnival of Binche was recognized as one of the masterpieces of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity. The Carnival of Aalst, celebrated during the 3 days preceding Ash Wednesday, received the same recognition in 2010. The Carnival of Malmedy is locally called Quorm. Even if Malmedy is located in the East Belgium, near the German-speaking area, the Quorm is a pure Walloon and Latin carnival. The celebration takes place during the 4 days before Shrove Tuesday. The Quorm Sunday is the most important and interesting to see. All the old traditional costumes parade in the street. The Quorm is a street carnival and is not only a parade. People who are disguised pass through the crowd and perform a part of the traditional costume they wear. The famous traditional costumes at the Quorm of Malmedy are the Hage, the Longsbresses, and the Long Ne. Some Belgian cities hold carnivals during Lent. One of the best known is Stavelot, where the Carnival de la Laëtère takes place on Laëtère Sunday, the fourth Sunday of Lent. The participants include the Blanksmousses, who dress in white, carry long red noses and parade through town attacking bystanders with confetti and dried pig bladders. The city of Halle also celebrates on Laëtère Sunday. Belgium's oldest parade is the Carnival Parade of Maaseick, also held on Laëtère Sunday, which originated in 1865. Citation needed. Bosnia and Herzegovina. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Croat majority city of Ljubuki holds a traditional carnival, Bosnian, Carnival. Ljubuki is a member of the Federation of European Carnival Cities, FECC. Main square in Rijeka during Carnival. Pirates during Carnival in Akovec. Croatia. The most famous Croatian carnival, Croatian, Carnival, also called Mokare or Fanik, is the Rijeka Carnival, during which the mayor of Rijeka hands over the keys to the city to the carnival master, Metter od Carnivala. The festival includes several events, culminating on the final Sunday in a masked procession. A similar procession for children takes place on the previous weekend. Citation needed. Many towns in Croatia's Kvarner region, and in other parts of the country, e.g. in Mimurje County in northern Croatia, observe the carnival period, incorporating local traditions and celebrating local culture. Some of the towns and places are Grobnik, Permani, Kastov and many others places near Rijeka, then Akovec, Samobor etc. Just before the end of Carnival, every Kvarner town burns a man-like doll called a pust, who is blamed for all the strife of the previous year. The Zvanari, or bell ringers, push away winter and all the bad things in the past year and calling spring. They wear bells and large head regalia representing their areas of origin. For example, those from Halebje wear regalia in the shape of animal heads. The traditional carnival food is frituel, a pastry. This festival can also be called Poklade. Citation needed. Kopernis, witches, from Mimurje County, northern Croatia. Masks are worn to many of the festivities, including concerts and parties. Children and teachers are commonly allowed to wear masks to school for a day, and also wear masks at school dances or while trick-or-treating. Carnivals also take place in summer. One of the most famous is the Sanjay Summer Carnival, first celebrated in 1968. The towns of Kres, Pag, Novi Vinodolski, and Fuin also organize summer carnival. Citation needed. Cyprus. Carnival has been celebrated in Cyprus for centuries. The tradition was likely established under Venetian rule around the 16th century. It may have been influenced by Greek traditions, such as festivities for deities such as Dionysus. The celebration originally involved dressing in costumes and holding masked balls or visiting friends. In the 20th century, it became an organized event held during the 10 days preceding Lent, according to the Greek Orthodox calendar. The festival is celebrated almost exclusively in the city of Limassol. Citation needed. 3 main parades take place during Carnival. The first is held on the first day, during which the Carnival King, either a person in costume or an effigy, rides through the city on his carriage. The second is held on the first Sunday of the festival, and the participants are mainly children. The third and largest takes place on the last day of Carnival and involves hundreds of people walking in costume along the town's longest avenue. The latter 2 parades are open to anyone who wishes to participate. Citation needed. Czech Republic. See also, Slavic Carnival. Masopust masks in Czech Republic, 2013. In the Czech Republic, the Masopust festival takes place from Epiphany, Den T. Kralu, through Ash Wednesday, Popelinstida. The word Masopust translates literally from Old Czech to mean meat fast, and the festival often includes a pork feast. The tradition is most common in Moravia but also occurs in Bohemia. While practices vary, masks and costumes are present everywhere. Denmark and Norway. Main article, Fastelavn. Carnival in Denmark is called Fastelavn, and is held on the Sunday or Monday before Ash Wednesday. The holiday is sometimes described as a Nordic Halloween, with children dressing in costume and gathering treats for the Fastelavn feast. One popular custom is the Fastelavnsrus, a switch that children use to flog their parents to wake them up on Fastelavn Sunday. Citation needed. In Norway, students having seen celebrations in Paris introduced carnival processions, masked balls, and carnival balls to Christiania in the 1840s and 1850s. From 1863, the Artist Federation Kunstnerforeningen held annual carnival balls in the old Freemasons' Lodge, which inspired Johann Svensson's compositions Norsk Kunstner Carnival and Carnival in Paris. The following year, Svensson's Fest Polonaise was written for the opening procession. Edvard Grieg attended and wrote Aus dem Carnival, Folkelivsbilder op. 19. Since 1988, the student organization Tarnsaler No has produced annual masquerade balls in Oslo, with masks, costumes, and processions after attending an opera performance. The carnival season also includes Fastelavns Tindag, with cream buns, and Fastelavnsrus with decorated branches. Citation needed. England. Main article, Shrove Tuesday. In England, the season immediately before Lent was called Shrovetide. A time for confessing sins, shriving, it had fewer festivities than the continental carnivals. Today, Shrove Tuesday is celebrated as Pancake Day, but little else of the Lent-related Shrovetide survived the 16th century English Reformation. The Shrovetide Carnival in the United Kingdom is celebrated in Cowes and East Cowes on the Isle of Wight. Since 2012, Hastings in East Sussex has celebrated with its own Mardi Gras, or Fat Tuesday. 5 days of music and street events culminating with a grand ball on Fat Tuesday itself. Loosely based on the New Orleans style of carnival, Hastings has taken its own course. Finland. The 2016 Helsinki Samba Carnival in Helsinki, Finland. The Helsinki Samba Carnival, modeled after the Samba Carnivals in Brazil, takes place every year in middle June. The carnival lacks a proper historical tradition and has instead mostly grown from experimenting. France. Carnival in Paris, 2015. Some major carnivals of mainland France are the Nice Carnival, the Dunkirk Carnival and the Limoux Carnival. The Nice Carnival was held as far back as 1294, and annually attracts over 1 million visitors during the 2 weeks preceding Lent. Citation needed. Since 1604, a characteristic masked carnival is celebrated in Limoux. The Dunkirk Carnival is among the greatest and most exuberant carnivals celebrated in Europe. Its traditions date back to the 17th century and are based on the Visiturbent, as fishermen went from one café to another accompanied by their relatives and friends just before departing to Icelandic fishing ground. Citation needed. In the French West Indies, it occurs between the Sunday of Epiphany and Ash Wednesday. This dates back to the arrival of French colonists in the island. Citation needed. Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. Main articles: Carnival in Germany and Austria, and Fastnacht or Fastnacht in Germany, Switzerland, Alsace, and Austria. Germany. Carnival in Mainz, Germany. The earliest written record of Carnival in Germany was in 1296 in Speyer. The first worldwide Carnival parade took place in Cologne in 1823. Citation needed. The most active Carnival week begins on the Thursday before Ash Wednesday, with parades during the weekend, and finishes the night before Ash Wednesday, with the main festivities occurring around Rosenmontag, Rose Monday. This time is also called the fifth season. Shrove Tuesday, called Fastnacht, or Veilchendienstag, is celebrated in some cities. Parties feature self-made and more fanciful costumes and occasional masks. The parties become more exuberant as the weeks progress and peak after New Year, in January and February. The final Tuesday features all-night parties, dancing, hugging, and smooching. Some parties are for all, some for women only, and some for children. Fastnachtskugel, similar to kreppel or donuts, are the traditional fasting food and are baked or fried. Citation needed. In Germany, Rheinischer Carnival and Schwäbisch Fastnacht are distinct. First is less formal and more political, second is much more traditional. Citation needed. Rheinische Carnival, Rheinischer Carnival, Fastnacht, Fastnet, Fastabend, Fastlovend, Fastleer, Fasking. The Rheinische Carnival is held in the west of Germany, mainly in the states of North Rhine-Westphalia and Rhineland-Palatinate, but also in Hesse, including Upper Hesse. Similar forms of the festival occur in Bavaria and other states. Some cities are more famous for celebrations such as parades and costume balls. The Cologne Carnival, as well as those in Mainz, Eschweiler, and Dusseldorf, are the largest and most famous. Other cities have their own, often less well-known celebrations, parades, and parties, such as Aachen, Bonn, Worms am Rhein, Speyer, Kaiserslautern, Frankfurt, Darmstadt, Duisburg, Dortmund, Essen, Mannheim, Munster, Krefeld, Ludwigshafen, Mönchengladbach, Stuttgart, Augsburg, Munich, and Nuremberg. The biggest German carnival club is located in the relatively small town of Dieburg in South Hesse. Festivities start as early as November 11 at 11:11 a.m. for some carnival organizations, but the main events usually take place after the Christmas season. On Carnival Thursday, called Old Women Day or the Women's Day in commemoration of an 1824 revolt by washerwomen, women storm city halls, cut men's ties, and are allowed to kiss any passing man. Special acrobatic show dances in mock uniforms are a traditional contribution to most festive balls. They may or may not have been a source of inspiration to American cheerleading. The fasking parades and floats make fun of individual politicians and other public figures. Many speeches do the same. Traditions often also include the Faskingsitzung, a sit-only party with dancing and singing presentations, and often many speeches given that humorously criticize politics. Swabian Alemannic Carnival, Schwäbisch Fastnacht. Reitenderl, De Grunolde, Hudelmeli, Schnarregadis, popular Fastnet characters from Kisletheim Allgäu, Swabia. The Swabian Alemannic Fastnacht, known as Schwäbisch Fastnacht, takes place in Baden, Swabia, the Allgäu, Alsace, and Vorarlberg, Western Austria. During the pagan era, it represented the time of year when the reign of the grim winter spirits is over, and these spirits are hunted and expelled. It then adapted to Catholicism. The first official record of Carnival, fasting, or Fastnacht in Germany dates to 1296. Often the costumes and masks on parades strictly follow traditional designs and represent specific historical characters, public figures, or specific daemons. Swiss Fastnacht. From the Monster Corso on Goodesday and Stag's Evening in Lucerne, 2009. In Switzerland, Fastnacht takes place in the Catholic cantons of Switzerland, e.g. in Lucerne, Lausanne Fastnacht, but also in Protestant Basel. However, the Baller Fastnacht begins on the Monday after Ash Wednesday. Both began in the late Middle Ages. Smaller Fastnacht festivities take place across German Switzerland, e.g. in Bern and Olten, or in the eastern part, Zurich, St. Gallen, Appenzell. Citation needed. Greece. The float of the King Carnival parading in Patras, Greece. In Greece, Carnival is known as Apokris, Alpha Pi Kappa Rho Iota Epsilon, lit. Goodbye to meat, and officially begins with the opening of the Trio Dion, the liturgical book used by the Orthodox Church from then until Holy Week. Apokris is made up of 3 themed weeks of celebration known as Prophany, Pyro Omicron Phi Omega Nu, Pre-Announcement Week, Creatiny, Kappa Rho Epsilon Alpha Tau Iota Nu, Meat Week, and Tyranny, Tau Upsilon Rho Iota Nu, Cheese Week. One of the season's high points during Creatiny is Tsinapempti, lit. Smoky Thursday, when celebrants throw large outdoor parties and roast huge amounts of meat. The ritual is repeated the following Sunday, after which point meat is forbidden until Easter. The following week, Tyranny, is marked by similar festivities revolving around the consumption of cheese, eggs, and dairy and culminates with a Cheese Sunday. Great Lent, and its restrictive fasting rules, begins in earnest the next day on Clean Monday. Throughout the carnival season, festivals, parades, and balls are held all over the country. Many people disguise themselves as masqueraders, and engage in pranks and revelry throughout the season. Patras holds the largest annual carnival in Greece, and one of the largest in the world. The famous Patras Carnival is a 3-day spectacle replete with concerts, theater performances, parading troops, an elaborate treasure hunt game, 3 major parades, parallel celebrations specifically for children, and many masquerade balls including the famous Bourbolia, Mu Pi Omicron Upsilon Rho Mu Pi Omicron Lambda Iota Alpha, ball in which women wear special robe-like costumes called a domino to hide their identity. The festivities come to a crescendo on Cheese Sunday when the grand parade of troops and floats leads celebrators to the harbor for the ceremonial burning of the effigy of King Carnival. Ladies on their way to the historic Bourbolia ball in Patras, Greece wearing the domino costumes unique to that ball. The carnival in Corfu is much influenced by the Carnival of Venice. During this period, various theatrical sketches are presented on the island, called Patigalia, or Patigalesa, Pi Epsilon Tau Epsilon Gamma Omicron Lambda Tau Sigma Alpha, in the local dialect. In previous centuries, existed also the custom of giostra, justing. The second biggest carnival in Greece takes place in Xanthi, Eastern Macedonia and Thrace, since 1966, and it is the major event of its kind in northern Greece. The Xanthi Carnival manages to attract visitors from the nearby countries such as Bulgaria, Turkey, and Romania. Other regions host festivities of smaller extent, focused on the reenactment of traditional carnival customs, such as Tyrnavos, Thessaly, Kozani, Western Macedonia, Rethymno, Crete. Tyrnavos holds an annual phallus festival, a traditional folkloric event in which giant, gaudily painted effigies of phalluses made of papier-mâché are paraded, and which women are asked to touch or kiss. Their reward for so doing is a shot of the famous local Tsiporo alcohol spirit. Every year, from 1-8 January, mostly in regions of Western Macedonia, traditional carnival festivals erupt. Best known of these is the Ragutsaria, Rho Alpha Gamma Kappa Omicron Upsilon Tau Sigma Rho Iota Alpha, festival in the city of Castoria, whose celebration may date back to antiquity and whose name derives from the Latin word rogatories, beggars, in reference to the beggars who could mingle with the rich in their masks. It takes place from 6-8 January with mass participation and is noted for its brass bands, flutes, and Macedonian drums. It is an ancient celebration of nature's rebirth akin to ancient festivals for Dionysus, Dionysia, and Cronus, Saturnalia. Hungary. The Buzoharas in Hungary. In Mohacs, Hungary, the Buzóharas is a celebration held at the end of the carnival season. It involves locals dressing in woolly costumes, with scary masks and noisemakers. According to legend, the festival celebrates both the conclusion of the winter season and a victory by the local people over invading Ottomans in 1526. Italy. Main articles: Carnival in Italy and Carnival of Venice. This Venetian tradition is most famous for its distinctive masks. The traditional Carnival of Acerole, Sicily. The Battle of the Oranges at the Carnival of Iveria. The most famous carnivals of Italy are held in Venice, Viareggio, and Iveria. The carnival in Venice was first recorded in 1268. Its subversive nature is reflected in Italy's many laws over the centuries attempting to restrict celebrations and the wearing of masks. Carnival celebrations in Venice were halted after the city fell under Austrian control in 1798, but were revived in the late 20th century. Citation needed. The month-long Carnival of Viareggio is characterized mainly by its parade of floats and masks caricaturing popular figures. In 2001, the town built a new Carnival citadel dedicated to carnival preparations and entertainment. The Carnival of Iveria is famous for its Battle of the Oranges, fought with fruit between the people on foot and the troops of the tyrant on carts, to remember the wars of the Middle Ages. In the most part of the Archdiocese of Milan, the carnival lasts 4 more days, ending on the Saturday after Ash Wednesday, because of the Ambrosian rite. Citation needed. In Sardinia, the carnival, in Sardinian language Carre Zecher or Carre Zigare, varies greatly from the one in the mainland of Italy, due to its close relation to the Dionysian rite. Citation needed. The majority of the Sardinian celebrations features not only feasts and parades but also crude fertility rites such as bloodsheds to fertilize the land, the death, and the resurrection of the carnival characters and representations of violence and torture. The typical characters of the Sardinian carnival are zoomorphic and or androgynous, such as the Mamuthons and Isohadries from Mamoiata, the Bows and Murgels from Otana, and many more. The carnival is celebrated with street performances that are typically accompanied by Sardinian dirges called atitatus, meaning literally cry of a baby when the mother doesn't want nursed him/her anymore, from the word tita meaning breasts. Other particular and important carnival instances in Sardinia are the Sardiglia in Oristano and the Tempio Pausania Carnival. Lithuania. Main article: Vagons. Vagons is a Lithuanian festival that takes place on Shrove Tuesday. Its name in English means the time before Lent. The celebration corresponds to carnival holiday tradition. Citation needed. Vagons begins on the night before Ash Wednesday, when an effigy of winter, usually named Mor, is burned. A major element symbolizes the defeat of winter in the northern hemisphere. It is a staged battle between Laninus, Porky, personifying winter, and Konopines, hempen man, personifying spring. Devils, witches, goats, the Grim Reaper, and other joyful and frightening characters appear in costumes during the celebration. Citation needed. Eating pancakes is an important part of the celebration. Further explanation needed. Citation needed. Luxembourg. In Luxembourg, the pre-Lenten holiday season is known as Feuillezend. Throughout the Grand Duchy, parades and parties are held. Pétange is the home of the Grand Duchy's largest pre-Lenten Carnival celebration. Annually hosting a cavalcade with roughly 1,200 participants and thousands of celebrants, the official name is Carnival Gemen Pétange or Cage. The initials in Luxembourgish are pronounced Ka, Ge, and Pe. Citation needed. The town of Remike holds a 3-day-long celebration, notable for 2 special events in addition to its parades. The first is the Stray-Immenchen, which is the burning of a male effigy from the Remike bridge that crosses the Moselle River separating the Grand Duchy from Germany. The Stray-Immenchen symbolizes the burning away of winter. The other special event at the Remike Feuillezend celebrations is the Bjergbrennen or bonfire that closes the celebration. Like Remike, the town of Esch-sur-Alzette holds a 3-day celebration. Other major Feuillezend parades in Luxembourg are held in the towns of Diekirch and Schifflang. Malta. Carnival procession in Valletta on Malta. Carnival in Valletta, Malta. Main article: Maltese Carnival. Carnival in Malta, Maltese, Il Carnival ta Malta, was introduced to the islands by Grand Master Piero da Ponte in 1535. It is held during the week leading up to Ash Wednesday, and typically includes masked balls, fancy dresses, and grotesque mask competitions, lavish late-night parties, a colorful, ticker-tape parade of allegorical floats presided over by King Carnival, Maltese, Tall Carnival, marching bands, and costumed revelers. The largest celebration takes place in and around the capital city of Valletta and Floriana. Several more spontaneous carnivals take place in more remote areas. The Natter Carnival is notable for its darker themes. In 2005, the Natter Carnival hosted the largest ever gathering of international carnival organizers for the FECC's Global Summit. Citation needed. Traditional dances include the parada, a light-hearted reenactment of the 1565 victory of the Knights Hospitaller over the Turks, and an 18th-century court dance known as Il Maltija. Carnival food includes perlini, multicolored, sugar-coated almonds, and the pringolata, which is a towering assembly of sponge cake, biscuits, almonds, and citrus fruits, topped with cream and pine nuts. Citation needed. Netherlands. Main article, Carnival in the Netherlands. Carnival in the Netherlands is called Carnival, Vastenavond, Eve of Lent, or, in Limburgish, Vaslauwend, and is mostly celebrated in traditionally Catholic regions, particularly in the southern provinces of North Brabant and Limburg, but also in Overijssel, especially in Twente. While Dutch Carnival is officially celebrated on the Sunday through Tuesday preceding Ash Wednesday, since the 1970s the feast has gradually started earlier and generally includes now the preceding weekend. Although traditions vary from town to town, Dutch Carnival usually includes a parade, a Prince Carnival plus cortege, Council of 11, sometimes with a jester or adjutant, sometimes also the handing over by the mayor of the symbolic keys of the town to Prince Carnival, the burning or burial of a symbolic figure, a peasant wedding, Boerenbruiloft, and eating herring happen, on Ash Wednesday. Citation needed. Two main variants can be distinguished, the Rhineland Carnival, found in the province of Limburg, and the Bourgondisch Carnival, found mainly in North Brabant. Maastricht, Limburg's capital, holds a street carnival that features elaborate costumes. The first known documentation dates from the late 8th century, Indic ulus superstitionum et paganiarum, but carnival was already mentioned during the First Council of Nicaea in 325 and by Caesarius of Alls, 470-542, around 500 CE. In the Netherlands itself, the first documentation is found in 1383 in S. Hertogenbosch. The oldest known images of Dutch carnival festivities date from 1485, also in S. Hertogenbosch. Citation needed. Normal daily life comes to a stop for about a week in the southern part of the Netherlands during the carnival, with roads temporarily blocked and many local businesses closed for the week as a result of employees who are en masse taking the days off during and the day after the carnival. North Macedonia. The most popular carnivals in North Macedonia are in Vivani and Strumica. Citation needed. The Vivani Carnival, Macedonian, translated Vevchanski Carnival, has been held for over 1,400 years, and takes place on 13 and January 14, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day by the old calendar. The village becomes a live theater where costumed actors improvise on the streets in roles such as the traditional August the Stupid. The Strumica Carnival, Macedonian, translated Strumiki Carnival, has been held since at least 1670, when the Turkish author Evliya Çelebici wrote, "While staying there, I came into a town located in the foothills of a high hillock, and what I saw that night was masked people running house to house, with laughter, scream, and song." The carnival took an organized form in 1991. In 1994, Strumica became a member of FECC and in 1998 hosted the 18th International Congress of Carnival Cities. The Strumica Carnival opens on a Saturday night at a masked ball where the prince and princess are chosen. The main carnival night is on Tuesday, when masked participants, including groups from abroad, compete in various subjects. As of 2000, the Festival of Caricatures and Aphorisms has been held as part of Strumica's Carnival celebration. Citation needed. Poland. See also, Slavic Carnival. The Polish Carnival season includes Fat Thursday, Polish, Tłusty Czwartek, when Paczki, donuts, are eaten, and Śledzik, Shrove Tuesday, or Herring Day. The Tuesday before the start of Lent is also often called Ostatki, literally leftovers, meaning the last day to party before the Lenten season. Citation needed. The traditional way to celebrate Carnival is the Kulig, a horse-drawn sleigh ride through the snow-covered countryside. In modern times, Carnival is increasingly seen as an excuse for intensive partying and has become more commercialized, with stores offering Carnival season sales. Citation needed. Portugal. Sesimbra Carnival, Portugal. Carnival is carnival in Portugal, celebrated throughout the country, most famously in Ovar, Sesimbra, Madeira, Lille, Nazaré, Milhada, and Torres Vedras. Carnival in Potence and Lazarim incorporates pagan traditions such as the Cartua, while the Torres Vedras celebration is probably the most typical. Citation needed. Azores. On the islands of the Azores, local clubs and carnival groups create colorful and creative costumes that jab at politics or culture. On São Miguel Island, Carnival features street vendors selling fried dough, called a malasada. The festival on the biggest island starts off with a black tie grand ball, followed by Latin music at Coliseum Islands. A children's parade fills the streets of Ponta Delgada with children from each school district in costume. A massive parade continues past midnight, ending in fireworks. The event includes theater performances and dances. In the Donkas de Intrudo, hundreds of people follow the dancers around the island. Throughout the show, the dancers act out scenes from daily life. The dances de Carnival are allegorical and comedic tales acted out in the streets. The largest is in Angra do Heroísmo, with more than 30 groups performing. More Portuguese-language theatrical performances occur there than anywhere else. Festivities end on Ash Wednesday, when locals sit down for the batatada or potato feast, in which the main dish is salted cod with potatoes, eggs, mint, bread and wine. Residents then return to the streets for the burning of the carnival clown, ending the season. Madeira. A dancer in the Carnival of Madeira, on the island's capital Funchal. Main article, Carnival of Madeira. On the island of Madeira, the island's capital, Funchal, wakes up on the Friday before Ash Wednesday to the sound of brass bands and carnival parades throughout downtown. Festivities continue with concerts and shows in the Praça do Municipio for 5 consecutive days. The main Carnival Street Parade takes place on Saturday evening, with thousands of samba dancers filling the streets. The traditional street event takes place on Tuesday, featuring daring caricatures. Arguably, Brazil's carnival could be traced to the period of the Portuguese Age of Discoveries, when their caravels passed regularly through Madeira, a territory that emphatically celebrated carnival. Ovar. Ovar Carnival, Portugal. Main article, Carnival of Ovar. Carnival in the town of Ovar, in the Aveiro region, began in 1952 and is the region's largest festivity, representing a large investment and the most important touristic event to the city. It is known for its creative designs, displayed in the Carnival Parade, which features troops with themed costumes and music, ranging from the traditional to pop culture. Along with the Carnival Parade, there are 5 nights of partying, finishing with the famous Magical Night, where people come from all over the country, mostly with their handmade costumes, only to have fun with the locals. Other regions. Harare Carnival Dancer. In Estarreja, in the central region of Portugal, the town's first references to carnival were in the 14th century, with flower battles, richly decorated floats that paraded through the streets. At the beginning of the 20th century, these festivities ended with the deaths of its main promoters, only to reappear again in the 1960s to become one of many important carnival festivals in Portugal. Citation needed. In the northern region of Potence, children appear from Sunday to Tuesday with tin masks and colorful multi-layered costumes made from red, green, and yellow wool. In the central Portugal towns of Nelas and Canas de Senhorim, Carnival is an important tourist event. Nelas and Canas de Senhorim host 4 festive parades that offer colorful and creative costumes: Barro da Igreja and Chimo do Povo in Nelas and do Paco and do Rocio in Canas de Senhorim. Citation needed. In Lisbon, Carnival offers parades, dances and festivities featuring stars from Portugal and Brazil. The Lars Carnival celebrates the country's folk traditions, including the Enterro do Bacalhau or burial of the cod, which marks the end of Carnival and the festivities. Citation needed. North of Lisbon is the famous Torres Vedras Carnival, described as the most Portuguese in Portugal. The celebration highlight is a parade of creatively decorated streetcars that satirize society and politics. Citation needed. Other central Portugal towns, such as Fatima and Leiria, offer colorful, family-friendly celebrations. In these towns, everyone dresses up as if it were Halloween. Children and adults wear masks. Citation needed. In the Algarve region, several resort towns offer carnival parades. Besides the theme floats and cars, the festivities include samba groups, bands, dances, and music. In Lazarim, a civil parish in the municipality of Lamego, celebrations follow the pagan tradition of Roman Saturnalius. It celebrates by burning colorful effigies and dressing in homemade costumes. Locally made wooden masks are worn. The masks are effigies of men and women with horns, but both roles are performed by men. They are distinguished by their clothes, with caricature attributes of both men and women. Citation needed. The Lazarim Carnival cycle encompasses 2 periods, the first starting on the 5th Sunday before Quinquagesimas Sunday. Masked figures and people wearing large sculpted heads walk through the town. The locals feast on meats, above all pork. The second cycle, held on Sundays preceding Ash Wednesday, incorporates the tradition of the compadres and comadres, with men and women displaying light-hearted authority over the other. Citation needed. Over the 5 weeks, men prepare large masked heads and women raise funds to pay for 2 mannequins that will be sacrificed in a public bonfire. This is a key event and is unique to Portugal. During the bonfire, a girl reads the compadres' wool and a boy reads the comadres' wool. The executors of the wool are named. A donkey is symbolically distributed to both female and male heirs, and then there is the final reckoning in which the intrudo, or carnival doll, is burned. Citation needed. Russia. Main article, Maslenitsa. See also, Slavic Carnival. Boris Kustodieve's painting of Maslenitsa. Maslenitsa, also called Pancake Week or Cheese Week, is a Russian folk holiday that incorporates some pagan traditions. It is celebrated during the last week before Lent. The essential element is blini, Russian pancakes, popularly taken to symbolize the Sunday round and golden. They are made from the rich foods allowed that week by the Orthodox traditions: butter, eggs, and milk. In the tradition of Orthodox Lent, the consumption of meat ceases 1 week before that of milk and eggs. Citation needed. Maslenitsa also includes masquerades, snowball fights, sledding, swinging on swings, and sleigh rides. The mascot is a brightly dressed straw effigy of Lady Maslenitsa, formerly known as Kostroma. The celebration culminates on Sunday evening, when Lady Maslenitsa is stripped of her finery and put to the flames of a bonfire. Citation needed. Slovakia. See also, Slavic Carnival. In Slovakia, the Fonji, takes place from 3 Kings Day, Treja Crowley, until the midnight before Ash Wednesday, Kardstrada or Popolkovostrada. At the midnight marking the end of Fonji, a symbolic burial ceremony for the contrabass is performed, because music ceases for Lent. Citation needed. Slovenia. Kurentovanje in Tuje, 2019. The Slovenian name for carnival is Pust. The Slovenian countryside displays a variety of disguised groups and individual characters, among which the most popular and characteristic is the kurent, plural, kuranti, a monstrous and demon-like, but fluffy figure. The most significant festival is held in Tuje, see, Kurentovanje. Its special feature are the kurents themselves, magical creatures from another world, who visit major events throughout the country, trying to banish the winter and announce spring's arrival, fertility, and new life with noise and dancing. The origin of the current is a mystery, and not much is known of the times, beliefs, or purposes connected with its first appearance. The origin of the name itself is obscure, citation needed. The Cernica Carnival is heralded by a figure called Poganji carrying a whip. In the procession, organized by the Pust Society, a monstrous witch named Urla is driven from the mountain Slivnica, to be burned at the stake on Ash Wednesday. Unique to this region is a group of dormice, driven by the devil and a huge fire-breathing dragon. Cerno and its surrounding area are known for the Lafarge, carnival figures with artistically carved wooden masks, citation needed. The mockery from Dobre Polje used to represent a triple character, the beautiful, the ugly, among which the most important represented by an old man, an old woman, a hunchback, and a current, and the noble, imitating the urban elite. Citation needed. The major part of the population, especially the young and children, dress up in ordinary non-ethnic costumes, going to school, work, and organized events, where prizes are given for the best and most original costumes. Costume children sometimes go from house to house asking for treats, citation needed. Spain. The burial of the sardine, Francisco Goya, c. 1812. Arguably the most famous carnivals in Spain are Santa Cruz, Las Palmas, Sitges, Vilanova y la Geltrú, Tarragona, Aguilas, Solsona, Cádiz, Badajoz, Bilsa, an ancestral carnival celebration, Plan, San Juan de Plan, Leza, Veron, Viana, and Zinzo de Limia, citation needed. One of the oldest pre-Indo-European carnival in Europe takes place in Iturren and Zubieta in Navarre in late January/early February. The carnival symbolizes the eternal struggle between the forces of good and evil, light and darkness, winter and spring. Andalusia. Main article, Carnival of Cádiz. A choir singing in the Carnival of Cádiz. In Cádiz, the costumes worn are often related to recent news, such as the bird flu epidemic in 2006, during which many people were disguised as chickens. The feeling of this carnival is the sharp criticism, the funny play on words and the imagination in the costumes, more than the glamorous dressings. It is traditional to paint the face with lipstick as a humble substitute of a mask. The most famous groups are the chirigotas, choirs, and comparsas. The chirigotas are well-known witty, satiric popular groups who sing about politics, new times, and household topics, wearing the same costume, which they prepare for the whole year. The choirs, choros, are wider groups that go on open carts through the streets singing with an orchestra of guitars and lutes. Their signature piece is the Carnival Tango, alternating comical and serious repertory. The comparsas are the serious counterpart of the chirigota in Cádiz, and the poetic lyrics and the criticism are their main ingredients. They have a more elaborated polyphony that is easily recognizable by the typical countertenor voice, citation needed. Canary Islands. See also, Carnival of Las Palmas and Carnival of Santa Cruz de Tenerife. Carnival Queen of Santa Cruz de Tenerife, 2009. The Santa Cruz Carnival is, with the Carnival of Cádiz, the most important festival for Spanish tourism and Spain's largest carnival. In 1980, it was declared a festival tourist international interest. Every February, Santa Cruz de Tenerife, the capital of the largest of the Canary Islands, hosts the event, attracting around 1 million people. In 1980, it was declared a festival tourist international interest. In 1987, Cuban singer Celia Cruz with Orchestra Billo's Caracas Boys performed at the Carnival Chicharro, attended by 250,000 people. This was registered in the Guinness Book of World Records as the largest gathering of people in an outdoor plaza to attend a concert, a record she holds today, citation needed. The Carnival of Las Palmas, Gran Canaria, has a drag queens gala where a jury chooses a winner. Catalonia. Vidalat is the last night of revelry before Ash Wednesday in Vilanova. Watercolor painting by Brad Erickson. In Catalonia, People dress in masks and costume, often in themed groups, and organize a week-long series of parties, pranks, outlandish activities such as bed races, street dramas satirizing public figures, and raucous processions to welcome the arrival of Sa Majestat Lrei Carnstolz, His Majesty King Carnival, known by various titles, including Lrei dels Pocasolts, King of the Crackpots, Princip Eterna Cornudella, Eternal Prince of Cuckoldry, Duc des Impulse I Corromputs, Duke of Fools and the Corrupt, Marquis de la Bona Mamela, Marquis of the Lovely Breast, Comte de Tots els Beruits, Count of the Insolent, Barreau de les Calaverades, Baron of Nocturnal Debaucheries, and Seigneur de l'Alt Platen Floret, dels Barraques I Gambarades I Artista de Honor d'Alt del Lit, Lord of the Tall Banana in Bloom, of the Voyeurs and Punks and the Artist of Honor upon the Bed. The king presides over a period of misrule in which conventional social rules may be broken and reckless behavior is encouraged. Festivities are held in the open air, beginning with a cercavila, a ritual procession throughout the town to call everyone to attend. Rows of masked revelers dance alongside. On Thursday, de Jeux Gras, Fat Thursday, is celebrated, also called Omelette Day, El Dia de la Truita, on which cooks, Dilardons, Boutifara dou, Boutifara, and omelettes are eaten. The festivities end on Ash Wednesday with elaborate funeral rituals marking the death of King Carnival, who is typically burned on a pyre in what is called the Burial of the Sardine, Enterrament de la Sardina, or, in Villanova, as El Entierro. The Carnival of Villanova I la Geltrú has a documented history from 1790 and is one of the richest in the variety of its acts and rituals. It adopts an ancient style in which satire, the grotesque body, particularly cross-dressing and displays of exaggerated bellies, noses, and phalli, and above all, active participation are valued over glamorous, media-friendly spectacles that Villanovins mock as thighs and feathers. It is best known for Les Comparses, held on Sunday, a tumultuous dance in which thousands of dancers in traditional dresses and mantons de Manila shawls, organized into groups of couples march in the street forming lines while throwing tons of hard candies at one another. Villanovinians organize several rituals during the week. On de Jeux Gras, Villanovan children are excused from school to participate in the merenjada, a day-long scene of eating and fighting with sticky, sweet meringue while adults have a meringue battle at midnight at the historic Plaça de les Calls. Children become covered in meringue during de Jeux Gras. On Friday, citizens are called to a parade for the arrival of King Carnival called El Arrivo that changes every year. It includes a raucous procession of floats and dancers lampooning current events or public figures and a bitingly satiric sermon, El Sermo, delivered by the king himself. On Saturday, the king's procession and his concubines scandalize the town with their sexual behavior. The mysterious Moixo Foger, little bird bonfire, is shown accompanied by the Zerair, Jabberer, who try to convince the crowd about the wonders of this mighty bird he carries in a box, who is in fact a naked person covered in feathers. And other items such as sport acts and barbecues in the streets, the talking dance of the mismatched couples, bal de malcassats, the children's King Caramel whose massive belly, long nose, and sausage-like hair hint at his insatiable appetites, or the debauched Nit dels Mascarotes dance. The bal de malcassats, dance of the mismatched couples, is a satiric talking dance traditional to Carnival in Villanova. After Sunday, Villanovinians continue its carnival with the children's party Vidalat, the satirical chorus of Carnstolz songs and the last night of revelry, the Vidalat. For the king's funeral, people dress in elaborate mourning costume, many of them cross-dressing men who carry bouquets of phallic vegetables. In the funeral house, the body of the king is surrounded by weeping concubines, crying over the loss of sexual pleasure brought about by his death. The king's body is carried to the Plaça de la Vila where a satiric eulogy is delivered while the townspeople eat salty grilled sardines with bread and wine, suggesting the symbolic cannibalism of the communion ritual. Finally, amid rockets and explosions, the king's body is burned in a massive pyre. Pleuronneurs weep for the death of His Majesty and the loss of pleasure. Donkeys of Solsona, hung in the Tower Bell. Carnival de Solsona takes place in Solsona, Lleida. It is one of the longest, Free events in the streets and nightly concerts run for more than a week. The carnival is known for a legend that explains how a donkey was hung at the tower bell because the animal wanted to eat grass that grew on the top of the tower. To celebrate this legend, locals hang a stuffed donkey at the tower that pisses above the excited crowd using a water pump. This event is the most important and takes place on Saturday night. For this reason, the inhabitants are called Matarooks, donkey killers. Comparsas groups organize free activities. These groups of friends create and personalize a uniform suit to wear during the festivities citation needed. In Sitges, special feasts include Zaitonades. Zato is a traditional local salad of the Penedès coast, served with omelets. Two important moments are the Rua de la Desboxa, debauchery parade, on Sunday night and the Rua de el Extermini, extermination parade, on Tuesday night. In 2022, the Rua de la Desboxa hosted 34 floats and over 1,200 participants. Tarragona has one of the region's most complete ritual sequences. The events start with the building of a huge barrel and ends with its burning with the effigies of the king and queen. On Saturday, the main parade takes place with masked groups, zoomorphic figures, music and percussion bands, and groups with fireworks, the devils, the dragon, the ox, the female dragon. Carnival groups stand out for their clothes full of elegance, showing brilliant examples of fabric crafts, at the Saturday and Sunday parades. About 5,000 people are members of the parade group citation needed. Valencian community. One of the most important Spanish carnival festivals is celebrated in Vinaròs, a small town situated in the northern part of the province of Castellón, Valencian community. The Carnival Festival in Vinaròs has been declared of regional touristic interest, and in 2017, this outstanding and ancient show celebrates 35 years of history. The Carnival Festival in Vinaròs became a forbidden celebration during the Spanish Civil War, but after the dictatorship, the party regained importance with the democracy's arrival. Every year in February, 40 days before the Spanish Cuaresma, 33 comparsas go singing, dancing, and walking down the streets in a great costumes parade in Vinaròs. In addition, many other festive, cultural, and musical activities of all ages take place, such as an epic battle of confetti and flour, funny karaoke contests, or the so-called Entierro de la Sardina, burial of the sardine. Nevertheless, the most important event is the gala performance of the Carnival's Queen. In this breathtaking show, it is elected the Queen of the Carnival, the major representative of the Carnival in Vinaròs all year round. Galicia. The cigarrón, the typical character of Verans Introido. In Galicia, the celebration is commonly known as Introido, or otherwise Antroido, Introoro, Intrudo, or Intrudio. Throughout history, the cities, towns, and villages of Galicia had poor connections between each other, so introidos are very diverse with different cultural traditions and characters based in the zone you're in. 9 introido celebrations have been declared as places of touristic interest in Galicia: Zinzo de Limia, Cabras, Leza, Veran, Fellows de Maceda, Zenariz do Huila, Vilarino de Conso, Androla, and Viana do Bolo and Manzanita. Filoés, a crepe-like typical dish served in Galician introidos. In Galician cuisine, there are various traditional dishes of introido, such as filoés, a dish similar to crepes, and orelles, a traditional dish of Catalonia and the Valencian community, but also traditionally served in Galician and French carnivals. Other traditional foods include chorizo, lacon, caldo, androla, and pig heads. Turkey. Main article, Baklahorani. For almost 5 centuries, local Greek communities throughout Istanbul celebrated Carnival with weeks of body parades, lavish balls, and street parties. This continued for weeks before Lent. Baklahorani took place on Shrove Monday, the last day of the Carnival season. The event was led by the Greek Orthodox community, but the celebrations were public and intercommunal. The final celebration was sited in the Curtulas district. In 2010, the festival was revived.